This episode of We Are Libertarians is brought to you by Audible.com. Enjoy one free audiobook courtesy of We Are Libertarians. Choose from more than 100,000 audiobook titles, including works by Ron Paul, Walter Block, Murray Rothbard, and the Cato Institute. Audible.com also has audio of radio and TV programs and audio versions of magazines and newspapers. You can get the Audible app on any mobile device or download the audio to your computer. Go to audibletrial.com/WAL or head to WeareLibertarians.com and find the link to get one free month of Audible today. Welcome to We Are Libertarians, episode 100. This is the 100th episode spectacular. We've called upon every member of WAL ever to assemble into my apartment, and mostly everybody showed up. Creighton's back from Washington, D.C., Joe's down from South Bend, Daniel Peffers is here from Denver. We've asked Suzanne, and we've asked Gina, we've asked Galt. Galt said he sends his regards to the listeners, but he was playing with his Google Play store or something. I don't know why he couldn't be here.
Is that what he named it?
Yeah. So he had to work, actually. So he sends his love. And there's 11 people in the room, so this is going to be an absolute disaster. We've never had this many people in. We've got 6 microphones plugged in for 11 people, so you're going to hear a lot of off-mic talking, mostly from Creighton. And we have given Miah her own microphone. Miah has her own microphone, so...
You're an accomplice to this ear rape.
This is basically Miah.
Trigger warning! Trigger warning!
Miah and Friends, episode 100. So let's go around the room. We'll introduce the cast of characters. Lynn Swayze sends her regards. Who else? Ripley.
Did you invite
Ripley
Hannah?
Could be. Yeah, she may be here. She's out doing Republican-y things. Yeah, I invited everybody. I even invited Ripley.
Is she out punching gays?
She is.
And protesting outside of a Planned Parenthood?
The most Republican thing she can think of.
Speaking of gays, I saw billboards on the way down here that were like, they had a picture of the clouds opening up, and there was a quotation that was supposed to be a quote from God, and it said, "Excuse me, I've already defined marriage," or something like that. And I was just like, damn it, you know where we're driving right
Santorum
now.
pack.
There's cornfields all around us, and there's anti-gay billboards. This is insane.
All right, so around the room, here's who is here. Mikki and Joe Ruiz.
I brought my wife today.
Yep.
Say hi.
Hi.
So Mikki came
So y'all
down.
know she's kinda
Creighton
hot.
Harrington is here. Creighton is here. Say that again, Miah.
Who's hot?
Harry Price is here.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, thank you for being here. Introduce yourself.
I am Daniel Peffers.
Daniel Peffers.
Friendly and shaven.
And the other member of the Hobbit tribe.
Yes, hello. Maybe put some effort
Cut
into
out
that.
second breakfast to be here. So.
Chris Peffers is here. Introduce yourself, young lady.
Young, I'm getting old.
I know.
I've got wrinkles and shit.
And then Crystal.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
That's it? Just hello and hi?
What do you want to know?
I don't know.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Crystal.
What do you do?
I a lot of things.
Are you a libertarian?
No, she sits behind a desk all day doing nothing.
That's okay. Yeah, that's true. But I've never been in this room with any of these people all at the same time before. I don't know many people here today.
Yes, you are a libertarian, correct?
Yeah, basically.
She's an anarchist.
That's the Gina vote of
I'm an
confidence there.
anarchist. I'm kind of liberal, but I'm a libertarian basically. Yeah.
And you are here with our fine bald-headed friend from Georgia as well,
The Bittner.
Yes.
Brett Bittner. How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic second appearance. Thank you.
Yes, welcome back.
They're together, by the way.
I know.
I just learned that like 20
I
minutes
just
ago.
found that out.
You
literally just found that out.
you
today.
work with them.
It's
like
really not that interesting.
no.
No.
That's why
She's right.
I want the sex tapes. I mean,
No, you don't. I don't even
bap.
want the sex tapes. So,
And then old reliable, Mr. Old Faithful, old guy,
Piece of shit.
Greg.
How are you, sir?
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. About yourself?
So let's check in. Let's start with I'm fine. Let's start with Joe. As you can hear, the quality on this thing is going to be less than stellar, so we apologize. We'll try and keep it short, but short means, under 3.5, 4 hours. With 11 people, if you add one person, it adds at least 40 minutes to an episode. That's kind of what we've discovered. That's one thing we've learned over the course. So we're in for an hour and a half per person. Can somebody multiply that by 11? A lot.
Is James Neese going to be coming late like the last time he was on?
I invited James. James said he had to tend to his child.
That kid is going to be
epic. No, he had
the voluntary approach to parenthood.
He had some online doxing to do or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the thing that scares me.
He had to keep that PS.
All these anarchists that are popping up now are going to be raising kids soon.
Do you think he just sits there with his kid on his lap and scrolls through 4chan and explains it to him?
Easily.
No, James Neese isn't on 4chan anymore. He's 8chan level now.
Oh.
There's 8chan?
Yeah. That's 8chan is for all the people who got kicked out of 4chan.
Yeah, 4chan lost a lot of its purity.
So it's just a bunch of child porn?
4chan.
Into the mic, people. Into the mic. Let's try.
No, it's not just a bunch of child porn.
Well, that's the only thing they kick off 4chan.
Chris is trying to rein
No,
everybody in.
they've been kicking off a lot of stuff of 4chan lately.
Yeah.
It went
been
downhill.
a big issue. People, well, I don't really give a shit. I mean, it still looks like 4chan to me, but a lot of people are upset.
Where do you go to find the pegging now?
Reddit.
Yeah, mostly Reddit. Yeah.
So Miah and Harry got you covered if you're looking for that.
Yeah.
If you want weird porn,
add it to the comments
call
when
me
this
up.
goes out.
All right, Joe.
Hey.
Joe Ruiz, managing editor of We Are Libertarians. How are you doing?
Good, man. How's it been?
Oh, it's been better than this. That's for sure.
You look kind of stressed out right now.
I'm riding the needle, as we like to say in the radio business, trying to make sure that the quality is there for our 100th episode spectacular. But I can promise you it won't be at all. So,
you know what the good thing about this is versus working in radio?
Yes.
When you do radio, you're not allowed to drink while you're on air.
Right.
You can do that when you podcast.
Is that a rule where you work?
It is. The salespeople can drink all they want, but the on-air talent has to stay sober through the duration of their program.
See, that's a rule that is not generally followed in radio.
That's what Rush Limbaugh's been doing wrong all these years.
I used to work with a radio show pretty regularly, and there wasn't a morning they weren't drunk. So they were very happy.
Abdul.
No, it wasn't Abdul. It's a different one. So, Joe, any recollections, any thoughts, any memories of We're Libertarians as we enter into our 100th episode here?
I mean, all the classic moments. Creighton playing the Star Spangled Banner on the guitar. Miah punching Chris. Creighton punching Galt. And what other fights have there been?
Harry, hand the mic over.
I didn't punch Galt. Galt tried to punch me.
That is into the mic, Creighton. Yeah, that was definitely one of the funniest moments. So the first 30-some episodes, it was Creighton, Galt, and I. And I was working at the Libertarian Party of Indiana, and Creighton was... you were politically interested, but you weren't anywhere near as seasoned as you are now. You've been working for Wall for the last year. What is it? Yale.
Yeah, no, I just got back. I worked with Young Americans for Liberty for since I started full time in August of last year. So
Gotcha.
About a year and a half.
That's nice. How did you like it?
It was fun. It was good.
It's all right.
Yeah, I mean it was an experience.
Working in politics sucks, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, we're nonprofit, so we're like a step below the actual politics part. We were organizing on campuses for Young Americans for Liberty,
right?
Not for campaigns or anything. So, we were a step below that. I mean, it was fun. It was cool to be able to live out there, and I was friends with everybody I worked with. So,
right,
all that.
What was what were some of the things that you learned? What is the youth of today excited about?
Honestly, I think if there's anything I learned, it's that libertarians are excited about a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like always, I don't think I would really learn that as much as it was reconfirmed. I think as of right now, probably over criminalization, police brutality. I think that's something that's firing a lot of people up.
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing the episodes pretty steadily together, it was mostly economics and campaign politics at that time.
Yeah, well, it was also during like Ron and all that.
Ron Paul, yeah. In March of 2012, that was our first episode. And since then, you've had things like the Chris Dorner affair, where the LAPD just flat out murdered a guy. Now, he was a cop killer, but that doesn't...
Tried to kill people in a different colored truck.
Right. They were shooting at random people. You've had the Eric Gardner situation, the Ferguson episode, Hands Up. No, Harry.
Do you not know his name? Do you not know the kid's name that got shot and murdered in Ferguson?
Trayvon Martin. That's right. No, it's Mike Brown. Mike Brown. I was spacing it there for a minute, but
the glove does not fit. You must acquit.
But we have definitely moved into an era where police civil liberties all around, starting with Snowden and then moving into police brutality. That has definitely consumed the last half of our episodes, certainly. So it's interesting to see that people are reacting to the same things that we react to as we read the news.
Yeah, no, that's for sure, at least on college campuses, I think. But I mean, it's just
hold that mic steady, buddy.
It's just like libertarians are libertarians. I mean, they all have their issue, and some of them are more academically oriented. Some of them are campaigny kind of people. It's just so. Have
you found most of the new wave of libertarians? I don't know what the generation after us is. We're all millennials here, but
speak for yourself, buddy.
You're Gen X.
Barely.
You're gonna have to leave. That's gross.
Get out.
So are they as awkward as our generation? I mean, our generation kind of got it together a little bit, but a lot of accountant types, a little bit. Are they willing to go out and do the campaigning, knocking on doors, talking to people, more social? Or are they reading Rothbard and just they're nerds?
I mean, you got to remember that. I mean, we're targeting a very specific type of people. So, like, all the ones that are normal, like all the normal people, those are the people aren't the people that we're trying to get.
Right.
So, like, we're trying to get the ones who actually, care about all this stuff and get them involved. So, I'd say some of them are awkward, some of them aren't. Some of them are campaigny kind of people, especially in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in Wisconsin and Minnesota and stuff. They worked on campaigns a lot.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Is it Walker?
No, I don't know.
There?
I don't know. Minnesota for sure. Wisconsin. It's just I don't know. But yeah, the Wisconsin people and Young Americans for Liberty, at least, they were all like a tight knit group of people. So it's just like, so they would be the campaigning people. Then there would be people we'd find that were like, they just were interested in ideas or something. The SFL type of people,
right?
And I mean, it's a wide array, and
so it's still a mix.
It's still a mix, and I think at least Yale has done a decent job of trying to, build the coalition amongst young libertarians.
Right.
Bring in the thinker people, bring in the activism people, and try and get them all under the same banner.
So you are back for good now, or what? What's the deal?
I'm done with Yale, and then I'm going back to school for computer science.
We got you in some trouble. Can you talk about
that? Yeah.
Sorry about that, Creighton.
We'll wait until the first.
Which trouble?
To post it. But
I'm not entirely sorry. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. So
he's much more animated on this one than the last time he was on.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, he's here.
We were at the Michigan State Convention for Yale, and I made the mistake of drinking something
and inviting us
and inviting Greg, and they egged me on to do a speech, which I did.
And
they recorded.
Egged on is a bit much.
No, you totally
much coaxing.
Well, Joe,
it was your
false.
guys'
Creighton
idea.
was trying to find a chair so he could stand.
It was
on
all.
it, and do
It was all your guys' idea.
Guys, hold on. I'm going to give a speech.
I just succumbed to peer pressure.
Let's put it this way. I had to write an apology letter to the head of Young Americans for Liberty. so we didn't get Creighton fired.
Yeah, so you guys will have to sit in anticipation.
I think that was episode 50.
No, it was 81.
It was 81? Okay.
Yes. I remembered well.
So if you look in the feed, there's one episode in the 80s that's missing, and we'll post that relatively soon.
It was a great episode, and it was the first time Greg and I had ever sat face-to-face
and recorded.
Podcasted
right.
together.
And it was brilliant and beautiful, and then Creighton ruined it.
Well, you guys can have your moment. and making fun of me.
And Jeff Frazee, thank you for not firing Creighton because I wrote him as well.
Thank you for that.
And he was, and since it is the last paycheck's coming,
Yeah.
When his response was, "Oh, I just wanted to scare him." I still have the email saved. I'll forward it to you. He was not mad at all. He's like, I actually thought it was funny, but I needed to scare him so no one else did that as well.
I just remember Creighton popping up in the chat thread with the big bold letters, "Damn it, guys!"
I remember that.
So did he? So how did he come in and just? What did he say?
No, I got an email, and he is very intimidating over email. When he wants to be, and he sent me an email, and I was very scared. He's just like, you guys, this is a fireable offense. You guys are on the job, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh my god.
For the record, we told you to come back to the hotel with us. You could have been there to defend yourself.
Well, there was two parts to it. There was the speech where clearly you were a little inebriated, and then there was the part where these two jokingly were recording in the hotel room, and they jokingly were saying, "Yeah, Creighton's passed out drunk behind us." Which
we never said drunk.
Which
we never said.
In
drunk.
hindsight, probably wasn't the best way to start the episode, but
judge not. You had Creighton and Galt on, and they had a fight. Ours is the least.
Hey, at least the recording was done at that point.
For a podcast that talks a lot about nonviolence, there's been a lot of hitting in this show.
Hey! For Chris and I, there was no hitting.
No. So if you go back and you listen to The Fight, there's an episode called The Fight. I think it was maybe 36.
It was early.
It was early. Yeah.
It was at least during Gary Johnson's speech at IUPUI, because that was kind of the
before
catalyst.
this was a professional podcast.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I had really wanted to do a podcast since 2005, but I didn't really know how to do it or what to do it on. And I got a little extra money, and so I bought all this podcasting equipment in late 2011. And I thought, all right, let's start a podcast. And I knew Galt really well because Galt had helped with the Ed Coleman campaign, and I thought he's goofy and funny, and why not do a podcast with him? And he said, I've got this buddy Creighton. Creighton Harrison, as I introduced him on the first episode, and I didn't realize how smart Creighton would turn out to be. Well, according to me, not according to Miah. But
so, in essence, Creighton performed a coup on Galt.
Right.
Because Creighton made it and Galt didn't.
Because here's the funny thing: what I didn't know is that Creighton and Chris didn't get along that well.
we got along at that point.
Right.
It was shortly after that point that we didn't get along.
Galt can best be described as an instigator, and he's very firm in his beliefs and is willing to defend them to the death, even to the point of punching someone who is twice his size.
Over a consumer brand.
You ever meet one of those people that will argue with you against a point that they know is wrong, but they refuse to change their point, even though they know they're wrong? That's Galt.
Right. And so one day, what was the fight over? It was over conspiracies, because Galt had a little bit of conspiracy
it was over
theory.
Everything. Are you talking about on the chat or in person?
No, in person. So that particular fight was over.
Over that episode, I think FEMA camps is what he started talking about.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to talk about conspiracy stuff. We didn't. You and I did not want to talk about conspiracy. We didn't want the show to go down that rabbit hole.
Right.
And get
you can get
typecasted.
Because the whole theory has been talk about current events, because nobody else talks about that. Every other libertarian podcast is dry and talking about libertarian philosophy or conspiracy podcasts, and there's nobody who really does a different look at news, at current events, and so that's kind of the void that we wanted to fill, and Galt wanted to... The argument was over whether or not we should talk about it or not, because the entire... podcast, it's something that should be discussed. Otherwise, you're just being like everybody else, and you're just being Republicans, basically. And these two really got into it because they fought all the time.
Yeah, so it was just, he wanted to talk about FEMA camps for some reason. I don't remember what brought it up.
Closer.
I don't remember what brought it up, but I told him, no, we don't need to talk about that. And it just started into, well, we should. And of course, voices were raised.
I finally managed to end the podcast, but the arguing continued.
Yeah, so then it just brought up something that he must have been sitting on for a minute, and he wanted to argue about this Gary Johnson event we had where I disagreed with the method he used to reserve space for Johnson to speak, and so I started yelling at him about it, and then he just tried to punch me. He failed, by the way.
It was the biggest failure I've ever seen. So these two, I'm sitting down in the chair because we had like a podcast studio at Rupert Bonham's gubernatorial headquarters, and I'm just watching these two argue, and I'm sitting there going, all right, they're going to fight. This is going to happen.
It was funny, though.
One of them is going to take a swing.
Like, in retrospect, he's just sitting there, and, like, he's just looking at us. And then finally, after like, he tried to punch me, and then I got him down into a headlock. You were just like...
Let me... So here's how it happened from my perspective. I see Galt. I go, Galt's going to be the one to swing. I know it. So I go to stand up, and as soon as I start to stand up, I see Galt inch back his little arm, his little baby arm, and swing in what looked like slow motion, and
a horizontal swing,
right?
Not at all like a vertical. You like a boxer swings. It's like, you ever seen like a little kid run through a yard with like playing like he's an airplane with his arms all the way out? Imagine kind of like that.
Yeah, and so he lurches around, and Creighton has enough time to lift his arm up, block it with his other arm, so he made like a right turn signal, and then he just puts him in a headlock and wrestles him to the ground. And while Galt starts to swing, I just sit back down and watch.
No, that was what's funny is he's sitting there, and then finally I get him wrestled down to the ground. He's just sitting there. He's like, Chris, and you say you tried to stand up. I don't think you tried to stand up. He was just sitting there the whole time, and then he just goes, all right, guys, break it up.
Because I was laughing my ass off. I didn't want to stop. This is free entertainment.
Why didn't you film this?
Because I didn't have time. And so finally I walk over
so fast.
And Galt Creighton's just is on top of him. Galt's trying to swing out of it, and I go, all right, you guys have to stop. Creighton, you have to get up. All right, get up. All right, I'm going to sit on you if you don't get up. I swear to God I said that. And he go, I got to make sure he won't punch me. I go, if he does, it won't hurt. and so
did you troll him while you're on top of him? Like,
oh yeah.
No,
if you'd used fluoride toothpaste, you'd be able to get off me.
I had him basically in a sleeper hold.
Maybe we are libertarians
without
should wear body
it.
cameras.
Yes.
That's exactly what this world needs.
So it was definitely one of the more entertaining. And then eventually Galt. So you two kind of. This was towards the end of the year. You two kind of alternated episodes, and I started rotating some people in. And I knew that at some point that this wasn't going to work, that there was going to be a choice. It was going to be someone was going to force a choice. It was going to be Galt or Creighton. And unfortunately, Galt made that choice. And I said, well, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. It's not like this is voluntary, and none of us are getting paid.
You don't remember the inflection point, though, was over Google Chat versus Facebook chat.
That was so absurd. And no, it was before that is we had this huge debate over fluoride. Before that, it was over fluoride.
Fluoride in buildings.
Oh, I've heard a lot about fluoride, guys.
So
I think we need to discuss this.
After the 2012
They have
elections,
fluoride in FEMA camps, man.
After
That's what the F stands for, right?
Fluoride camp.
Yeah.
And
They're
I wish
those FEMA camps.
I wish Galt were here to defend himself because I would
He would
love
do
to
it
hear,
poorly. It's fine.
I
He
would
declined.
love to hear.
He'll have another
to be
chance
fair,
in
he
episode
declined.
200.
You invited him, and he said he couldn't come.
He wanted to come on the first. So he wanted me to have this party on the first. But everybody's in town today. He's leaving at the end of the day, so today was the only day that we could really do it. Yeah. So I knew that after that fight that there was going to shut down the podcast or keep this thing going. And so after the 2012 elections, I'd gotten to know Joe, and I decided to start looking for other contributors. And I had gotten to know Miah really well, and Miah is obviously an enthusiastic personality that people are attracted to or at least want to watch.
Well, I mean, you saw that Facebook post you guys posted yesterday or earlier today or whenever. Everyone wanted me. I took a screenshot of it when you delete it.
You're like Raymond. Everybody loves you.
Or hates you.
No. Nobody loves me. Everyone hates me but finds it entertaining.
Yeah. And the people that hate you are afraid to comment for retribution.
Right.
I mean, I did walk in here yelling, get on the ground with my AR.
You did. Yep. You did.
And so that's when I reached out to Joe, and I said, Joe, do you want to write? I'm developing a website. I built the website. And I reached out to a few other people, and Gina was one of them. And I needed some daily content being contributed to the website, so I reached out to Greg, who I went to high school with. And Greg started coming on in early 2013.
12, right before the election.
Yeah, so you've done far more podcasts than anybody else, even more than Creighton and Galt at this point.
That's when we moved it to your apartment.
Yeah, because
I like to call it the love nest.
Right. Well, not that particular apartment. That's where I was married at. Clearly not a love nest. So, a nest of broken...
All right, well, everyone, turn off Spangle's mic. Creighton, take over.
I forget if it was Bob or Tom, but he just was like,
I'm okay.
I'll never forget that clip. Was it the show?
Yeah. And so
fastest approach to weight loss I've ever seen. He just cut the wife right out.
It was sort of the other way around, but so Creighton started coming to my apartment and is best known for playing the Star Spangled Banner.
Did I play the Star
On July
Spangled
4th?
Banner?
You did. We opened the show as the July 4th.
Your electric
Oh,
guitar.
that's right. That's
Your,
right.
amp.
And then you never stopped playing it, and I
And
wanted
you
to
did not
murder
take
you.
What a
aviators off for the entire
Republican.
episode.
Why did I have? Do you remember why I said I had it with me, or did I say I would just say I would
You
just-
specifically brought it.
You
I?
specifically brought it to play the Star Spangled Banner, and then you
was a
never stopped
douchebag.
playing it. And I wanted. I wanted.
That
to
wasn't
murder
even the
you.
time you were dressed like Mitt Romney either. So
I wasn't you guys. I had a nice shirt on. I was home for Christmas.
Yeah, but you had the temple garments on underneath.
I had jeans and a nice shirt.
So
You also had one of those
It
weird
wasn't
name
dare
tags.
dress well. You sell out.
Like, that was really good, and it
to
wasn't
your
weird,
yacht.
but when he started playing, like, some John Mayer, I got a little freaked out. It's just me, Chris, and Creighton, and he started singing to Chris, "Your Body's a Wonderland."
I did not. I think I played Mario.
you did.
He did!
And that was the night that led to the divorce.
No, that was in February of this year. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So Creighton will be back. I don't know if every episode, but around more often.
not?
So, and
For
then
the time being, why not?
yeah, and then so Harry is a late addition to the podcast.
Yes.
I met you really through Rupert's Kids.
We first actually met at the YAL state convention in 2012.
Yeah.
And that was like right I usually thought the fight between Galt and everybody, I thought that was just for the show until like I got there and started talking to Galt and going around.
No, that's a real fight.
Got to know him.
A lot of people don't believe Galt when they hear about him. They have to meet him first.
Yeah, I thought it was all an act. It's like, oh, he's probably, you got to have that one conspiracy theorist guy on the podcast. That's probably his act. And then I got to meet him. I was like, oh, he's really like this.
Yeah.
It doesn't turn off.
Yeah,
Just
God
doesn't
love
turn
him.
off.
You actually, Chris Peffers, you tried to start a podcast with Galt.
Yes, we did Nearly Total Nonsense.
Yeah,
That
it's
was what
like
we called it.
it's like Reddit. It's like Reddit for your ears.
How did it fail?
Gee, I wonder.
So after the relationship dissolved between all of us and Galt, I held on because I'm a very loyal person, and everybody else was like, "Dude, we're gonna quit if you don't like stop it with this guy." But I love Galt. I think he's not a bad dude, and he is
He's a good
entertaining, and
guy.
people love him, and he's always funny. People he hasn't been on for 70 episodes, and people still want him to come on.
He needs a bit thicker skin, but
Yeah, but that's part of his
Yeah,
charm.
He's
a little.
become
Yeah,
a
just a
part
little.
of the Wall mythos, now.
Right.
And so, like, I think that's probably why he declined his invitation. He wants to,
Yeah,
keep that
like
up.
maintain that
Like
Yeah, keep the
Neese.
myth up,
mystery.
yeah.
James Neese was 2 hours late for a podcast and was on for 30 minutes, and people still talk about him. Mostly us, because he is the human embodiment of 4chan. So afterwards I said, listen, you can't come on Wall anymore. I had to fire him from his free job. And I said, you can't, I'm sorry, you're fired from your hobby, son. So he's like, all right, well, I want to do something different anyways. I want to do a show called Nearly Total Nonsense with my friend Chris Peffers, and it's like Reddit for your ears.
It was just about nothing. Yeah, it was just us talking about.
You should have
whatever
called
the
it
hell we
Hurt It.
wanted to.
It
Heard
tru-
it? Yeah, heard
instead of Reddit.
It
No, I
truly,
like Nearly Total Nonsense.
If
That's
you-
the one thing I like about.
it's
the
still
podcast.
out there if you go and look it up
episode
in
1.
iTunes. Yeah, and so
Episode 1. Wow. What a legacy.
Yeah,
so episode 1 ends, and then I get a call from Galt. I pick up the equipment from you or Galt, and
Well,
Yeah, we're not doing this anymore.
it was. He wanted me. It had been a couple weeks since the first episode, and I was like, all right, we need to get this recorded. So I called him up. I only had time to record it real quick, and he wanted me to go over to his house and watch The Walking Dead for like 3 hours before recording this. And I was like, no, we got to do it. And then, I don't know.
You
We
had
just got
very
in the
busy
fight.
things. You had a lot of important things
I
to get
had
back
to go to work or something.
Yeah.
or I don't know. Probably just hang out. But
Right. In between pot
there
brownies
was a lot
and
of
work, you
there
had a
was
lot to
of
do.
Netflix I had to watch, and it wasn't The Walking Dead.
Yeah, having to catch up on other shows.
But
Bad was running.
yeah, so I wanted him to just show up. We do it, and then I drop the equipment off with Spangle. But he said, "Nope, you can tell him I quit."
Wow.
He goes south so
He does.
And
Yeah,
he
he
sticks
does.
by those decisions too.
Yeah, you
He
got to
goes
love him
galt.
for
He goes galt.
I
Hey,
am never coming back to this podcast.
we have been talking about him for roughly half the episode. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
got that staying power.
Like, do y'all remember when we were doing the chat? Well, I don't remember. He was posting how we need to do G chat, and
Yeah, we have for years now. We have had a daily running chat on Facebook with Joe, Creighton, the brothers Peffers.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if you're even in it anymore.
I'm in it. I see it. All it does is serve to notify me when.
Just drop out then.
No,
We don't
it's
need
fine.
you.
He's
We
a
don't need you.
voyeur.
I like to hang out and watch. What
Peffers
can I
will
say?
occasionally chime in. Occasionally we'll get a Creighton sighting, but really it's Greg, Joe, and I talking.
I work a lot of hours.
I
on
know,
industry
nothing
that-
important.
all the
You,
time.
you have been
Yeah.
you have been much more chatty lately, which we're happy to
What
see.
happened was I turned off, I muted it so that I had to check on it, and so you guys talking about like your high school days or something, I don't get a notification about that.
Right.
You remember this girl from high school? Yeah, what's the problem with her?
She stuck her finger in my ass.
Busted you out now.
That's not true, Miah.
I like how we introduced Harry for a second and just was like, oh wait, he's black. Let's go.
Harry
Checklist, good. Next.
we're doing.
Hey, I got
we have
skipped.
this big argument over fluoride and then over Google Chat, whether or not we should use it, because Galt is a very big fan of Google. I mean, I like Google. I have an Android phone, but he is just like gung ho, and we're like, we don't want to switch to Google, like, you know.
No, but we tried.
We tried. We actually,
And you couldn't
I
actually upload memes.
tried. I actually tried,
yeah, you can't
and
do
you,
that.
yeah, and you couldn't upload pictures at that point. You
And
had to
when
do
we had the
links
link to
pictures.
memes, that was
and
the
we're
end.
like, nah, we can't do it. He's like, and then finally he's like, you want to blah 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 do this, and I was like, dude, we try. And then finally he was just like, well fuck you, I'm leaving. And then he just left all of it.
Oh no, not before you put that Ron Burgundy meme that said, "Well,
No,
this
no.
escalated quickly,"
No.
and then there was left
That was
chat.
it. It was
No,
like,
there was a 2-hour meme war between the two of them that
oh my
was
god.
fucking epic.
I was sitting in my recliner in my house watching like a basketball game, squealing like a little girl. I was shaking alone in my house, squealing like
I still think I won that
it
battle.
was unbelievable.
Because he'd say, no, guys, fluoride is a real issue. Fluoride is a total issue. And then Creighton would, like, post, like, the doctor from Scrubs.
Yeah.
I don't know how
No, I
or the
posted-
beating the dead
I
horse.
posted a picture of the South Park episode where they had Jared from Subway, and he's like hitting this dead horse.
Oh, you did, and it was animated.
Dead horse, and I just wrote fluoride at the top.
It was, oh, God. And he got so mad that
Oh,
he was,
I remember. I still remember the words he typed. He's like, "Oh, you're a little baby. I have to direct a link to memes." And then Creighton just goes, "Boom!" There, it was the South Park animated GIF. Oh, I died.
And we keep talking about golf for the last 30 minutes.
I know.
Sorry, Harry.
So,
Back to you.
anyways.
Yeah, back to me. Yeah,
Tell me
it's
more
okay.
about race culture.
So Joe is officially our director of minority outreach because Joe is half Puerto Rican. Although if you listen to the show, you might think that he's Guatemalan, he's full-blooded Mexican, he eats tamales every night for dinner.
Any other variety of Hispanic.
Creighton is our director of douchebag culture outreach, and then
Popped collar and all.
Harry is our
Senior black correspondent.
senior black correspondent. Creighton's actually our scumbag Republican here on the show. So how did you? You've been on what, 2-3 episodes?
Yeah, 3-4-ish episodes. Yeah, because I met everybody at the I think it was the 2012 YL conference, and then after I left, because I started my own podcast with a buddy of mine from high school right before that, and we was like, oh, here we go here, we'll talk about that on the show, and moved around, and then it was after it was a fundraiser event, and then talking to Chris, because I've been meeting him a couple of times at Rupert's Kids. And then we got to talking, and I got invited to the show. Yeah. And then after that, my show kind of went down in flames in a gigantic racist rant.
Not on your part, but on your friend's
part.
Yeah,
not on my part. I didn't have the racist rant. My co-host on the other side of the microphone just went on this almost 15-minute racist rant about I'm the way I am because obviously one of my ancestors who were a slave got raped by a white person. That's why I was the way I am. And then it just kept going with genetic. Yeah, it went on like that.
If that was the case, it wouldn't have been a white person. It would have been an Asian. Specifically, probably from Japan.
All right. So back to Harry. Moving right along. So
I liked that show. It was awesome. It was, huge, small following, but
Well, and we had gotten to a point where Creighton had left, and Galt obviously wasn't around. I didn't really have Dan and Chris on very often. It was just starting to get to really just Greg and I, and I've always liked to have 3 people, and so I invited Harry on since his went down in racial disharmony, and he came on and wowed us from the beginning with his well-spokenness.
Oh, thank you. You also shocked. I'm also always shocked, when I go to places and I talk about the podcast and they've listened to it.
Really?
Like when I went to Pork Fest this year, and people there actually have heard of the podcast.
Really?
Yes, I was shocked.
Wow. Look at that!
Yeah, it was playing on LRN.FM a couple of times.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, we are back on LRN.FM.
Did I tell you guys that there were a couple times where we'd get notifications for people joining Alice Dues Pairs, and I'd have to call through people. And there were a couple where they recognized my name because of our podcast.
Really?
Yeah,
wow!
Out in Utah.
Yeah,
stuff.
we have we started off talking about Indiana politics a lot, but then it kind of got to a point where 3/4 of our listenership are not from Indiana, and it's a national podcast, international, probably 10 countries, but half of those are Russians, so it's probably just spammers. But yeah, we have over 2,000 listeners an episode, which I'm always amazed by that anybody'd listen to this shit.
I know I don't.
But we thank you for listening. You can listen to anything else in the world, but you're listening to this. Thank you.
Raise your hand if you listen to this show.
I do. I
have never listened to an episode of We Are Libertarians.
Yeah.
I have never listened to an episode. Even
No.
one that I
I've
was
been on. This is like my 4th, maybe.
Yeah.
I download every episode, listen to it while I'm at work.
The last one I listened to was probably the one that came out right before you gave Harry and I an episode to do, and you talked about me for the first 25 minutes.
Hipster anarchist.
Yeah, so when I
used to listen to this every week when I was in the truck.
Right.
But I had a lot of time to burn.
That sound you hear is Miah vaping.
Not Darth Vader.
By the way, not Darth Vader.
I'm chasing clouds, man. Chasing clouds.
So Harry, since his podcast went south, occasionally, so we try to do this weekly, but as you know, we never succeed in that. We're trying to be more faithful because we heard from so many of you, especially Samantha Woties?
She's Galt Scurpy.
Waldies, yes.
Yeah.
She's the one that was on the Facebook page.
Right. She's always yelling at me. Always yelling at me to do the podcast. So we're trying to be more regular. And when I went through the great upheaval earlier this year,
the divide,
the great divide of all my possessions, I asked Harry and Miah to host an episode, and then actually you guys, Harry hasn't turned in your work, but you've done a second version of that because,
it's in my utility belt.
Okay, good. Harry wore a utility belt today.
Utility belt.
Yeah. So Harry, thank you for joining us. We appreciate all your hard work.
I like being here. I have a lot to say usually.
Good. Hand that microphone over to the other brothers, Peffer. Dan, how did you get involved here?
I was truck driving.
Miah just smacked Greg in the dick.
Ball tap.
This bathroom visit is going to be a couple seconds long.
Think about me. Get on Tumblr. I've got a lot of nudes on Tumblr.
So, just for anyone listening, Miah Akston on Tumblr.
Yes.
I started my Tumblr back when I thought it was still mainly about porn and hilarious, funny gifs, and then I found out it was about feminists and people with headmates. Trigger warning.
So, Brothers Peffers, you came in a pair. Really, Chris got here first because he came
I think
through
I
a
did
gulp.
nearly total nonsense before I was on an episode of WoW.
And then I felt so bad that imploded that I was like, why don't you, a consolation prize, like, why don't you come on We Are Libertarians?
It was really as close to total nonsense as you can get.
And
Go listen to that episode, guys. It's
it really,
nothing.
yeah. You guys were high as hell.
It was.
You didn't do shit on it.
Nothing.
Well, and you had to
We
coax.
talked about some Steam game we bought for like $2. And
No, in the beginning, you
I
had to
enjoyed
coax him to talk. Like, you had to constantly like give him cues like, hey, say something. He'd be like, okay.
The funny thing about the
Meh.
Brothers Peffers is that Chris says almost nothing and Daniel never stops talking. So they're a great combination. And the dynamic between the two is funny because Chris always adds in something like some little ad lib that always makes me laugh. That's funny. That always, and especially gets his brother's goat. And you should give his goat back, by the way. That's not nice to steal goats.
Give me back my goat.
But you know,
why would I give a goat back?
Dan I've always liked because he always says something funny like jiggle to the left, or he has some sort of like you never.
That will be forever lost, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. So it's always funny to have the two of you together because you pick on each other because you're brothers. You both have, well, you used to have a heavy beard. Now you look like you're from a John Voight movie from the 70s.
That's a recycled joke, by the way.
Thank you. I said it off air. It
Chris
doesn't count.
Spangle, yeah.
Way to call him out, Chris.
I gotta. What else am I gonna do?
I'll tell you what. This podcast has lost a lot of weight. Mikki, do you know how much Joe's lost?
It's about 60 pounds.
60 pounds. I've lost 60 pounds.
Don't worry, I have gained all of it.
All of it. Greg, you have no idea how much weight you've lost.
No, but the chemo's over, so I'm in the recovery phase.
I'm actually going to give you cancer now.
I love that cancer got such a big laugh, Greg. Congratulations.
Miah is a social cancer, if you will.
I'm a social terrorist, god damn it.
That's true, too.
But I've lost 60. You've probably lost near 100 pounds. I mean, you
were pretty fat, man.
you were enormous.
Like,
Girthy.
can you
I'm
actually
girthy.
see your penis now? Or
I'm an innie.
Huh?
I'm an innie.
That's why I didn't feel anything when I slapped a crotch.
Well, a couple folds.
God. So, but Dan, you've lost probably the most out of all of us.
Yeah, officially I can say now that I lost 100 pounds.
Congratulations. And what was your secret?
Writing everything I ate down in a journal.
And?
Is that because of the
working
short-term
at
memory
FedEx.
loss? Oh, working at FedEx.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Yeah.
So, very good. All right, Chris Peffers. No, I'm joking. Dan, how did you guys come about? Where did we? Like I said, I found Chris first.
No, I
through
think
Galt.
Or you
Did
found
I?
Galt first, but you didn't find Chris first. You found me when I listened to the podcast in the truck. Reno told me about the podcast.
Ah, okay.
And then I listened to it, and I'm like, okay, this is a way I could be part of activism if I join up with these guys.
Well, I don't want to
Yeah.
brag, but I remember Galt asking me to be on the second episode. So
And you said,
Did you
You said
politely
no.
decline?
I did.
Reno-
I was in school at the time. It was during class.
Reno was on an early episode, and he was super nervous. I remember when Andrew Reno, he was on like one of the first 10 episodes, I'd say, I must say, and he was so nervous. It was so cute. He was just shaking like a little scared bunny. We were like, really, nobody's going to hear this. Like, a year and a half after, now that people have gone through this last year.
now we've got an audience that listens to our back catalog.
Like, they
for
go back
some
and they
reason.
download every episode, but like a year and a half after the first episode was posted, 25 people had listened to it. I was like, literally, nobody's listening. Don't worry, Andrew.
Do you mean the first episode, or the
Like,
first episode, or the lost first episode?
No, there was two first episodes. There was one where I didn't hit record, And then there was
that actually happened.
Is that an episode? If a tree falls in the woods, does anybody hear it?
No, it's like one of those movies that doesn't get
I
released.
thought the computer crashed. That little shitty computer in the office.
I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was actually a really good episode too.
It was.
You guys thought it was a good episode,
Right.
But
It was.
We were proud of it.
It was
only because
maybe
it
it was at the
exists in
stand.
It was one crucial detail away from a good episode.
Yeah, the hitting record. No, I had recorded it on my laptop and it crashed, and then I couldn't get it back.
Yeah,
So-
then every episode after that, he'd move his entire tower computer into the recording
which had
room.
16 gigs of RAM instead of the 2 gigs of RAM of laptop. But we've had a lot of technical failures over the years. Dan, you were probably part of the funniest 20 minutes of We're Libertarians of all time. It was
in history.
You, Greg, and I were sitting here. It was one of my first episodes back after I had taken the post-divorce break. And we were talking about going out, meeting women, getting crazy.
And jiggle to the left.
And jiggling to the left.
I must say, I'm quite impressed with the clubs that you frequented in Broad Ripple.
So Peffers was giving me advice on ladies, as he's known to do. Mr. Romance over there.
Oh, yeah.
What you
And
do is you walk up to him and you just kind of jiggle to the left.
Yeah.
Take that leg out.
I mean, I've always given you a very straight shot source to some poontang. I mean, you just got to ask me, and then I'll hook you up with Emily. I mean, my wife has always been open to feeling sorry for you.
All right. Let's talk afterwards. Maya's wife, Emily, looks just like Jessica Rabbit. Human embodiment of Jessica Rabbit.
Does she have red hair now?
No, not red hair, but better.
Well,
black
no,
hair.
it's black now, but
So,
I got some red hair down at the house.
We're bringing wigs into this now. I just want you guys to hear.
So Greg was trying to convince me that I needed to go out and get crazy and talk to ladies and
No,
Dan,
to go out and get laid.
And Dan goes, it's really easy to go out and meet women. You just go to the dance floor, you walk up to them, and you stand next to them and just kind of jiggle to the left.
Oh, man.
Oh, and then 20 minutes in, I realized I had not recorded that, and we were heartbroken because it was so funny.
You responded with, I usually Jersey Turnpike, and you stood up.
You did Jersey Turnpike for us because I did not know what that was
And
until
I've never
Chris
been more
Spangle.
mortified or flaccid in my entire life.
I did. I Jersey Turnpiked the hell out of Dan Peffers.
Oh, yeah.
And luckily there was no photo evidence of it. So, Dan, you are now, where are you living at?
I am living in Denver, Colorado.
Any particular reason why you chose Denver?
Well, it's a beautiful city, and there's
No, it's
a
not.
thriving marijuana industry.
It's high altitude. It's cold as shit, and the people there suck.
Dude, it has been overcast the entire time I've been here, and every day is sunny in Denver. It may be snowing, but it's sunny
But it's
every day.
still cold.
Sunny all the time.
Do you drink Coors a lot?
It's not any colder than here.
But I've
It's
been
cold.
meaning to
But
go
it's higher
see the
altitude,
factory
and that
over
changes
at
everything.
Yeah, the bottling plant over in Golden. But
So, what is your occupation?
my occupation, I work in a dispensary.
And would you like to explain to the people what that is?
A dispensary is a place where somebody who proves that they are of legal age, which in the state of Colorado is 21, you may walk in and purchase retail marijuana.
You know, it's always so nice.
It's a retail drug dealer. That's what it is.
It is so nice when
I'm the
somebody
friendly drug dealer.
when somebody
And
can
shaven.
find work that when somebody grows up and they just have dreams and then they accomplish them. And I'm so proud of you. buddy.
Sometimes dreams come true, guys.
Yeah. He earlier he's
Dream
like,
big.
it's not a very good part of town, but I never get nervous being there. It's like, yeah, because you're high as shit all the time. And then, somebody could have a gun in your face and be
I'll
like,
have you know I work sober, and no one's going to believe that.
what is your, I know your brother's all in favor of it. He's visited you every weekend for the last 6 months, but how do your parents and your family feel about it?
They are glad that I'm working a white-collar job right now.
Isn't it more of a green-collar job?
It is kind of a green-collar job.
So what do? Do you just, you take money and hand out weed?
Yeah, I started off as a bud tender, which is kind of a bartender. It's in the Oxford Dictionary now. Look it up. They officially That's one of the hip new words.
So would you work your way up to head roller?
Just now they have me. They have me doing things more around the office, filing, human resources kind of stuff. But,
right.
Initially, I was just.
How did you get the most boring job at the pot store? You're like, I'm human resources. So every complaint, you just go, don't worry about it, man.
It's here. Smoke this.
It's cool.
Do you sing Hakuna Matata? No.
I love just closing the office door and just like listening to music on my phone while I'm doing my filing and I'm doing my
a lot of Pink Floyd.
Are these branded? That was one thing I was going to ask you. Are the dispensaries actually branded?
Some of them are, some of them aren't. Usually the practice is to name the dispensary a unique, proper noun. Strainwise is a big company out there, and they have different dispensaries. They'll name the Grove or the Sanctuary or some other hippy-dippy name. And they try to build a separate identity for each store, but some of them will brand everything together if they have more than one location.
So is it a franchise or they own all of them?
They own all of them, so it's kind of a franchise kind of scenario, but people aren't like opening franchises. They are creating franchises.
So how many years off is the Peffers House of Weed?
The thing is, the climate is very difficult to open a dispensary in. The legal code changes every day, and that's actually what I do a lot of my work with, is just maintaining compliance. Compliance is a very tricky thing in an industry that's been around for less than a year. Like, just think, this is the first Christmas that people have been able to buy retail marijuana for their loved one as a Christmas gift.
So
this has been a very interesting learning experience.
What'd you bring us?
You're not any of our family.
Right? Bastard. So
it's hard to bring things through the air.
So
that's racist.
So I take it back. Are you depressed that you got a job at a weed store and all you do is read?
Dude, that's...
It's like the opposite of working at half-price books where you just get high all the time.
We have opposite jobs.
Yeah. he works at a grocery store. He works at a grocery store and he's high as shit all the time.
No, he's not.
I work
sober.
That's just like your opinion, man.
You don't know what I do, man.
No, I have to get up at 4:40 to make it there by 5. I don't have time to.
I get there and I'm around pounds of marijuana all day.
Wow.
And it's just...
How is it dangerous? I mean, do people rob dispensaries all the time?
No. Police response time is pretty quick when it comes to anything involving a Schedule 1 narcotic.
I wouldn't try and lift Mittens out of there. She will beat the shit out of you. She's that cat. I love her to death, but she's racist as shit, Harry.
My AR is right there, dude. AR right there. Okay. Well, if you need,
it's
if you need
your fault
extra
for bringing a box into my house, because you know a cat is going to sit in it. If it fits, it sits. I'll get her if you
Harry's
want.
about to bleed black blood.
Why are you putting a... Oh, it's 2 gloves, not just 1. I was going back to the OJ conversation earlier.
That's a little racist, Ruiz.
Are those always that shiny, or is that blood?
It's part of the black legal code. You put that one bloody black glove with you at all times. That doesn't fit.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't fit.
It's got to make sure it doesn't fit. Swap it out.
And so this podcast is taking a turn for the dumb.
Well, then let's segue.
A turn for the dumb?
Look at the kitty.
Yeah. I don't know.
Was there ever
I
a clear
love
direction?
kitties.
No,
we
this
just
is why
venture straight
anarchy
into
doesn't
dumb.
work. We need leadership.
Whoa, anarchy works.
Have you been listening to this podcast?
Yeah.
I think it's one of the better podcasts.
It's true.
this
tell
is
you
the
what anarchy
100th
does.
episode we've made of
Let me
this.
tell you what anarchy does. I've brought Ron Paul, Gary Johnson, Walter Block, Jeffrey Tucker, and countless other quote-unquote big libertarian names to this podcast. And the people that our audience remembers are James Neese and Chris Galt.
They can hear Ron Paul anywhere.
Yeah,
That's why Jerry Springer had a job for so long.
Although I did love interviewing Walter Block and asking him my question about bonobos. I'd always wanted to ask him that question.
Joe is everybody goes, how did you guys get Noam Chomsky and Walter Block
Sent
and all
them
these
an
big
email.
And, you asked. Right.
Ass places.
Not Tom Cruise, man.
Guess what? They have time because they're either working in the dispensary or they're working and reading books about Murray Rothbard. They've got time to talk. So, did anybody ever turn us down?
Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart, yeah. Ben Swan.
No, Ben Swan.
He accepted.
He agreed, and then when he was supposed to be on the show, Chris overslept. And,
no, I had a family member
and
die.
so I had to tell Ben Swan's people that Chris's family died, or someone in his family died.
And now he's going to hear this podcast.
And then we
All
rescheduled, and then he didn't
Chris
show up
edits
the
this
second
podcast.
time. So it was just basically like, fuck you, you stood me up. I'm
Right.
gone.
And so he did it back to us. But it was totally deserved. He's a good dude. That's like your favorite website.
Oh, Ben Swan does the best news out there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Ben,
But
if you're
Chris
listening,
just
So
had
please
to
come
sleep
back to
in
us.
that
It-
extra
it was-
15 minutes.
I blame my wife. Okay.
Somebody
And
came
that's
in.
not a problem
Hey,
anymore.
Hannah the
You're
Republican.
dressed for summer. Wonderful.
It feels good.
Yeah, I bet.
Hi.
So
New edition.
anybody that else that I don't think anybody else really turned us down.
No?
Maybe people didn't respond. I mean,
There's
we
a
tried
couple that didn't
Stossel, we tried everybody, but
Yeah.
we generally
Stossel, Beck, there's no response from either of them.
yeah, but we generally got everybody we wanted. So, all right. So we've talked a lot about the brothers Peffers. Let's go to Brett.
Good choice.
Yeah, you missed everybody in the room overlooking Miah so that they could get to me
Right.
for some unknown reason. The guy who's been on one show.
You are. You have the best job that I've ever quit.
That's true. And it's another one of those situations where Chris has an idea, and then I make it like 100 times better.
I know.
And then I get all the glory and all the credit, and it's fantastic.
I know. So
When are you going to do that to this?
yeah.
Well, he's got to leave first, and then I'll just take it over. And
All
then
right,
it'll be
Chris.
100
Chris,
times better.
leave. Get out.
Yeah.
Get out.
If
Get
you
out.
excuse us, we're having a podcast here.
I'm going to come into my apartment. Will look like Martha Stewart came in here. Brett and I met because he was the executive director of the Libertarian Party of Georgia.
Yes.
And I was the executive director of the Libertarian Party of Indiana. And so we would steal each other's ideas, got to know each other really well because at that time, really,
We were the only two.
we were the only two.
And now,
And then I quit.
right?
to-
And
I
then
left to
was
go-
one of like four.
Right.
And I don't know what happened to. I think only Louisiana has one now,
A paid position?
a paid position. I believe
Okay.
Louisiana is the only one that does now.
So I left the Libertarian Party of Indiana and went to work for the Advocates for Self-Government as their marketing director, essentially, and redesigned the website, spent a lot of time working on a few ideas, and then I got offered my dream job working for the Bob and Tom Show here in Indianapolis, and there wasn't any other choice to take that position other than Brett, and so he now lives here in Indianapolis. And
Across the
is-
Mason-Dixon line. Yeah.
Yeah, you are from Georgia, which means you still call it the War of Northern Aggression.
I don't think I've ever called it that.
But it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we call it.
Right. That's fine. I don't think I've ever called it that.
You cringe every time I scream, Sherman did nothing wrong.
Well, yeah, but you've never been there. You don't know. You've never seen the mile-wide swath of destruction.
Oh, that was just my $1,000.
That was a
cell
pretty
phone.
messed up
Can you
thing.
Right.
Can you
to
still
happen.
see that?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of places that really show.
They probably have a memorial up
Yeah,
for it.
they have a lot that's shown, and there are no
It was a
buildings
pretty
over
big-
150 years old in the greater Atlanta area.
I will say, I've seen video of the light, what the laser light show is on Stone Mountain.
Oh yeah,
Oh my
that's
God.
terrific.
That just sounds like the best show ever.
And it's every night during the summer.
Laser light
Have you
show
ever
on a
s-
mountain.
Have you ever
Oh
seen
yeah, it's just this giant hunk of granite, and they've carved out big time Confederate people like Jefferson
Like the-
Davis and Stonewall Jackson. They're carved out on the side of this mountain, and people go to visit the mountain. You climb up to the top, or the really lazy people will take the little sky train thing up to the top.
Trolley.
So Americans.
Right.
Shut up, Brett.
And
Southerners.
And then at night they have a laser light show, and around the 4th of July they also do fireworks. And, it's just something that people in the Atlanta area do. It's just
burn crosses.
No crosses burned.
Am I incorrect? It's like when you're walking towards it, like the path has like each Confederate state and like what it was, when they left, why they left, like the big
there's a lot of history involved with
like,
the Confederacy
it's
there.
like, but it's all just the Confederacy. Have you ever watched Squidbillies?
Yes.
Okay, so there's an episode where they go to Stone Mountain, and it shows the laser light show, and it shows General Lee and Jefferson Davis riding off in the. But then it, their outline turns into the southern portion of the United States, which then morphs into the letters SEC. like that encapsulates the South.
Except now the SEC is into Texas and Missouri and.
Yeah. Well, Missouri was never part of the
Securities and Exchange Commission.
Yes, the Securities and Exchange Commission.
So you've traveled working with libertarian parties all around the country. Yep. You were once head of the Libertarian State Leadership Alliance.
Yes, by default.
You've worked with other state parties, but but nobody else wanted the job.
Nobody did.
So really, you have been inside the inner workings of the Libertarian Party. You've personally poked the gerbil on the wheel.
That sounds so dirty.
Yeah, and I felt so. Can you talk about where the Libertarian Party stands today? I mean, as we move towards the 2016 elections.
I think you're actually seeing a lot more focus on being organized and being able to handle the people that come around when it comes to be election time.
Right.
That's one of the things that I think has been a very poor showing from a lot of libertarians, is they're just not ready for the attention. They're not ready for the big time. But we're seeing that now. You're seeing a stronger core of candidates that are being recruited. Unfortunately, there have also been some candidates that we've lost. Take a minute to remember Chuck Donovan, who is a good friend of mine. He ran for U.S. Senate in 2010, probably one of the best libertarian candidates I've ever seen.
Mark Bodenhausen.
Mark Bodenhausen also passed
Arkansas.
this year. Alabama,
I'm sorry.
But we're seeing though that candidates are taking things more seriously.
Yeah.
You don't have the folks that are just kind of running as a goof like it used to be. It used to be that folks were just, I can be the next governor of Georgia.
Yeah, if I just wear a Hawaiian T-shirt and play the ukulele on stage, and I get enough attention, people will go to my website.
There was no ukulele, Chris,
No.
But there was a Hawaiian shirt. In
I'm talking about something that happened here in Indiana, because it's happened here too.
Oh, are you?
Oh boy, yeah. No, I thought the Hawaiian shirt was only a Georgia thing.
No, that happens everywhere. The
gimmicks never work. But
probably.
But things are moving past that. It's
right.
not those guys aren't really around.
There's much more of a professional, serious tone within the Libertarian Party, as opposed to, listen, there's nothing wrong with education. A big reason we do this podcast is because this is the appropriate place to educate people. It's, as they have the earbuds in between their, in between their workday and as they're driving home. That's where education takes place most of the time, and in a fun, different setting. But people don't necessarily want to be educated in the middle of a campaign season. They want to know, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to make things better?
Exactly.
And
you're
they want to know if
people
your
that
campaign's
realize
serious.
that.
Yeah, they want to see their serious campaign.
Yeah, and you're seeing that people realize that. You're seeing that within the party structure, party leadership, campaigns themselves, candidates themselves. I've seen a lot of states who've had leadership changes in the last 5 years that have been a huge positive net change. They may have lost a few people who were around because of the previous leadership, or only stuck around because they were the big fish in the small pond. But we saw a big change in states like Arkansas, Nevada. They've had some really big leadership changes over the last 5 years that have been very positive.
Yeah. Compare that to Creighton, as Miah calls you. What is the view of the Libertarian Party amongst the y'all crowd in general? I mean, I got the sense that when I went to SFL in D.C. in 2013, young libertarians have no use for political parties at all. They care about candidates. so they get excited by somebody like Rand Paul, but they're not going to get excited about the Republican Party.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree that by and large, people who SFL, I think, as an organization, tends to have their demographics. I think tend to skew non-political at all, almost anti-political. But for those that are involved in SFL and those that are involved in YAL, because YAL tends to have a little bit more politically inclined demographic, I think they do get more. They get excited about people, not about parties. And I think, but that's been true since I've been involved. I was never like, oh yeah, if it's not R, then it's terrible, or if it, it's always been.
There were
like,
points when we were. I mean, at the original podcast, the first 30 episodes. When I left the Libertarian Party of Indiana, I took this show off of the Libertarian Party of Indiana podcast network and put it in its own feed. And so I would have to sometimes say to you, like, hey, by the way, we're hosted by the Libertarian Party of Indiana, so don't say that. So I could see it in you early on that there just wasn't much use for the Libertarian Party, but there's not much use for the Republican or Democrat Party either.
I think as far as getting people excited, for sure, the parties are not what people get excited about. They get excited about people. But that's a different question, whether or not, as far as organization and stuff.
So, Brett, that puts more emphasis on better candidates within the LP, because the LP has always been about building an organization, building a political party, and less about candidates, more about a functionary that knows when the parades are so we can go get in the parade and get noticed as a party, as opposed to putting that energy and effort into recruiting candidates, training them. That was something that I focused on. I know you focused on it. It was like, it's not a social club. We need to train candidates. And by the time I left, we had, to some detriment, killed all of the social events within the party and worn everybody out doing political activities for our candidates.
Yeah, I can see that. What I see now, though, is there's a group of people in most of the states that are ready for their breakout candidate, and to be ready for that candidate to do something amazing and to attract people. Before it was just kind of an empty void when somebody who got interested about a Libertarian Party candidate, they were essentially just emailing into a black hole, or making, if they could find a phone number, calling into a black hole and not really seeing what's going on, not really being able to handle sharing the events, the things that are happening within the campaign. And I think that's a big change that I've seen, not only on statewide candidate levels, but even as small as some of the municipal races and state house races.
Right. All right, everybody turn back and look at Hannah. She's going to take our picture.
What's up, Hannah?
She's not. Hey, girl. How you doing?
Good.
Looking nice.
Thanks.
Just go to the gym. Getting swole. We'll talk to you in a minute.
Doing squats.
All right. So, Bittner, tell us what you're doing now. What's your
Nothing.
Nothing?
I'm enjoying a 5-day weekend.
Good. Thank you for calling our podcast Nothing. You may leave now. So tell us what is happening with the advocates. I don't think what I found is a lot of people don't know the advocates for self-government, but
They know the quiz.
Everybody knows the quiz.
Right.
The world's smallest political quiz is distributed. All those OPH kits that you get in the little diamond where you find out where you're at. It's a great outreach tool. That is the Advocates for Self-Government, which is why you should donate to the Advocates for Self-Government.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And
they do great tabling. They give you the quiz. They just don't tell you who they're from. They just like, here, take our quiz. Hey, they're all standing up. They do great tabling. They just don't do good branding.
Yep.
Right.
And we're actually working on the what next.
Right.
Once you've taken the quiz, that's actually my job, is to make sure that we have something for people to go into once they've taken the quiz.
So I started this program. The board, it's a nonprofit group. The board said, all right, we've got all these people taking the quiz, but what do they do after the quiz? They click out of it? Why don't we convert them or explain what libertarianism is, or explain how their quadrant relates to the libertarian philosophy, how much, so more of an outreach tool, and basically building an online system as well as supporting the people that are giving OPH kits. in that what's next. So the beautiful part about an outreach at the county fair with the OPH kit is that there's someone standing there to give you the what's next.
Right.
But there isn't one online.
Nope. And that's what I'm working to develop, and we've had a direction change probably since the last time you and I have talked.
Okay.
That
boards, huh?
Yeah, you know it. But I think it's going to be a positive direction, and we're still looking to kind of fill up, bring it into the 21st century. I still feel like there are a lot of parts of the libertarian movement that are still operating like it's 1994, and it's not.
Yeah. And the great thing about the advocates is that it's Sharon Harris is the president and the heart and soul in many ways of the organization, and her attitude, Brett's attitude, and the board's attitude is that we're not Misesian, we're not Rothbard only, we're not Republican libertarians, we're just libertarian, and no matter what group or faction you belong to, if you hate Jeffrey Tucker, if you love Jeffrey Tucker,
right,
use the quiz.
Can I ask you a question though?
Sure.
Hasn't the quiz been around since like the 70s?
Actually, it was 1982.
81. I like 81. That Greg knows that, but the two guys who have been paid by the organization don't.
My question is, why are they just now getting around to the what's next mentality?
Well, they're
Brett.
Well,
Brett.
It's always been a grab them kind of tool.
Right.
Like we used it in like Yale used it at their tables. Like
it's to give.
We made our own. Like
Brett had to leave the room for a moment. Brett had to step out. The fact is that it's a lot of it is board stuff, and you've got to find the money to build what's next. And trust me, after working on it for a year, I was so burnt out with that question. I mean, you guys would come over and I'd just be like, Greg, Creighton, Joe, does this make sense? How do I do this? What do I do? I mean, it's very stressful and very difficult to think about what's next because you've got to take Hitler and make him libertarian in 2 minutes. And how do you do that? How do you present the broad libertarian philosophy? A bullet.
So you're saying
this is quick. Yeah,
very nonviolent.
This long-standing libertarian tool it operates at the pace of government is what's infuriating, I think.
Right.
Yeah, because like I've been toying around with the Libertarian Party. Like when I got out of high school, I was hitting there. I got the small Liberty quiz several different times at the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show, but it took like me just sitting around like talking with a local libertarian like Joel a couple of times, and Joel was like, "Oh, here, let me talk to you for a few seconds," and that got me to keep pushing.
That's why this is as effective as any OPH booth is because it's characters. We emphasize our personalities and characters, so and we're in your ear, and it's like you're part of the conversation, and that is how you convert people. And how do you do that after somebody's taken the quiz? They've already spent a minute and a half taking the quiz. Now how do you get them to stay for another 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And it was not a question that I was...
Link to Larkin Rose videos.
We used it as
But that works for you. That may not work for Joe.
We used it as a jumping off point to get people... Like, mostly it's really good for, like, us. It was... We would be able to give them this quiz. It seemed very innocuous, and like we didn't have any stake in it, and we were really just trying to figure out what issues we would target them with.
Right.
And so it's really good it's good because people be like, "Oh, I'm a libertarian. I didn't know that." But also you can see what they like, what do they believe in, and then you could say, well, this is what we believe in. That's the same as what you believe in, and what you should do is come to our meeting this evening.
So you come across as just pollsters, and bam, agenda.
Yeah, but if you're good at it, then it doesn't sound like
Having given the quiz probably 3,000 or more times in person, the key for me was always showing people what they could do and introducing them to a libertarian. So like Chris talked about, we have a diversity of personalities to match a diversity of people who are all going to have different opinions about coming to libertarianism. And that was, for me, the jumping off point. Like Creighton pointed out, you have that icebreaker that you provide your own now what, hopefully, in the absence of an overarching national focused, board-approved aspect. you're doing your own thing, and that's what I did. I was inviting people to events. I was specifically scheduling things 2 weeks after an outreach event so that I could say, hey, come to our open house where we're going to have free food and free beer, and you're going to have 30 different libertarians that you can talk to. Surely among 30 you can find one that you don't want to punch in the face. And so that was the way that I used it, was I was able to get a big group of people together, and
sometimes it's hard to find 1 in 30.
Right, that's true. It is sometimes hard to find 1 in 30, but I had a core group of people that, were pretty, not Miah.
Well, yeah. Well, it's great to watch libertarians argue amongst yourself and not all be the same, because it's not like one national stinking brand. Like, to be a libertarian, you have to be this way, and it's also not a cult.
Oh, Larry. Oh, Larry. I know your name's Harry, but I'm calling you Larry because you're wrong.
Is it nice though? Is it? Is it?
I'm saying, wait till you try to engage in the LP, and then maybe have some outside the box ideas. And I hope you enjoy being told how you're wrong, Larry.
Somebody. Oh my gosh. Hannah, take Harry's mic. Hannah Drazic, our one of our scumbag Republican friends, has joined us fresh out of the gym. Part of the
she stinks.
Part of the
I put on deodorant before I came.
Part of the problem that Brett that breath.
You want to smell?
No.
Part of the problem that Brett and all libertarians face is that you have a multitude of people. Joe has always tried to use pop culture to draw people to libertarian philosophy. Greg and Creighton are much more philosophical. Galt and myself were always drawn more by the politics. Maya's voluntarist and very, philosophically driven. So everybody kind of, Harry, I don't know what, guns maybe? What was the thing that kind of drew you to the Libertarian Party first?
It has to be the math of it all, the economists. It was just
right.
It just that's the path that just brought me, because this just made sense.
Economics. So I think everybody kind of has their own
dollars and cents.
Sometimes it starts with an issue, or it starts with a part of the philosophy.
Hey, it must be the money.
Somebody like Gina, we would get hate mail about Gina being on the podcast because people would forgive somebody like Greg, who was coming, Greg or Hannah, who are coming from more of a Republican background, more of a conservative background, and it was acceptable for them to hear the libertarian philosophy and move towards the libertarian, center.
How much of that hate mail was me?
A lot of it, and then there was.
You're kind of like the resident misogynist after the Gina times.
Yeah,
and you two would be on with Gina. Oh my!
And then there was Gina, who came from more of the left perspective, and people were less tolerant of Gina because she was coming out from the left perspective, which I always found bizarre. And
well, she was a thief. She wanted to take our money.
Right. Hannah, Mike.
Being a black guy going into one of the public
it's
school
always about race, Harry.
Going to a public school system, and having all types of different family members, and like a lot of the black churches. So I grew up having to hear that terrible Democrat message over and over again.
Right.
You just want to pounce on it. Like, I'm tired of hearing this.
Our good buddy Hannah has been on a few times. How are you doing, Hannah?
I'm doing fabulous.
Great. Excellent. You talk much softer than Maya does.
Oh, sorry. Should I talk loud?
No, do not hand that back to her because she will blow my eardrums out. So you, like the first time you come on a year ago, you immediately
It was 2 years ago.
Start talking about abortion,
Yes,
right, Greg?
I remember that.
That was really Hannah's pathway. She decided that she was okay with killing babies. Prior to that, she'd always been anti-baby killing, but now she's moderated.
What was funny is she was on the episode the whole time. She hadn't really said anything, and then somebody said something. She's like, should we talk about all the babies that are getting murdered every year?
hey, Black Lives Matter.
I'm so glad you got rid of that Santorum sweater vest.
I never owned one. Sorry.
She worked for Romney. She's worked for a bunch of Republican campaigns. But what has been the cumulative effect of hanging out with this group of people?
I hate everybody.
Right. That generally works out. Yeah. Have you become more libertarian?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it was a matter of I grew up very conservative, and so that's just what I had been taught all my life. And then I kind of got out of that and started thinking for myself, and led me to just hating everybody.
Right. How do you?
Hence the libertarian position, hating everybody.
There you go.
True.
How do you? How would you define your politics now? after 2 years of knowing libertarians?
Well, I've never voted for a libertarian candidate, and I don't know that I ever will, honestly, because I don't see them as viable, which is, I think, probably the biggest thing that libertarians have to overcome.
Why are you smiling so big, Creighton?
Voting's a waste of time.
I did not vote in the last election.
Voting is violence.
I voted for Miah last time.
Voting is like praying just in case God exists.
So many different opinions in one room.
I see beer and I see energy drinks, but I didn't see any Republican Kool-Aid. You bring that yourself?
I did, actually.
Romney tears.
No, she's drinking
I
Chick-fil-A.
had them in a bottle.
Don't worry, I'm on your side to an extent.
Thank you.
There's 3 of us.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I voted Republican and Democratic candidates. Like, I prefer to vote for the candidate that I see as the most viable and the one that I feel will best represent whatever.
So you just vote for Andre Carson. I should just vote for Andre Carson, District 7. He's the only one that's going to win. So
I mean, either that or don't vote, which is what I did last time. So
go ahead, Creighton.
I actually did not vote this last election.
You didn't vote at all?
I did not vote. Good man. Virginia.
There's an interesting thing that happens when you are working in politics. You forget to vote.
Oh, I didn't forget.
You purposely just didn't?
Just didn't vote.
Yeah.
I
voted for
voted,
apathy.
The thing that I was, when I was a Republican and I was a diehard Republican, I always found myself voting for nothing but Republicans, and I was very proud of the fact that I would never vote for anything but a Republican. And then when I became a Libertarian, I voted tripartisan every single election since I've become a Libertarian. I voted for Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians, because you do kind of break out of that. What's the Patty Hearst? What's the psychosis that you go through when you're Stockholm syndrome? You break out of that Stockholm syndrome and start to actually think about who and what you're voting for. And I voted for far less candidates this time than I voted for candidates. So I think even if you're not going to become a full-fledged card-carrying Libertarian Party member, hearing the libertarian philosophy and thinking about it from libertarian perspectives, I mean, what about your relationship to police officers and the military? I mean, as you've hung around libertarians, has that evolved at all?
Not really. I already had a somewhat libertarian view on that. I always thought the military should be cut.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a somewhat libertarian view on that. I get where everybody's coming from. I prefer to have no opinion on it because I get both sides of the issue.
Right. Having no opinion, that seems a little too Republican.
She prefers to have no opinion.
I took that
It's
back.
the most viable option.
I have an opinion. I just prefer to keep it silent.
It's okay.
Right.
Cops have opinions on you.
Then why are you
Sure
on a
they do.
podcast?
I don't know.
I don't know. So, anyways, all right. Well, thank you for joining us, Hannah.
Absolutely.
Stick around. There's tuna casserole in the kitchen if you'd like it, although it has gluten in it.
Actually, I'm going to leave a little early and go exercise my Second Amendment rights. Sorry.
All right. Well, there's a couple guns over there if you want to grab one on your way out.
Yeah, you don't have to leave.
It has a price tag on it.
Yeah? How much?
$11.50.
I'm selling one for $12.
It's got a
Stealing
threaded
your
barrel.
guns
It's got
over
it's
the
got a
podcast.
red green dot sign on it, the collapsible stock.
Quiet,
it's
man, I'm
Rock
selling
River.
I'm actually not going to send it to him because he's bought like 3 guns in the last 2 months. So.
I'm selling mine too. I've got the long barrel. It's really nice.
No, it's got the long, heavy Coyote barrel, the match grade barrel, the chrome. It weighs like 400 freaking pounds.
Take that recoil right out of that 5.56.
Yeah, and then break your shoulder because you can't hold it any longer.
All right.
No, now we're at the Greg.
Greg.
You know, we got to do the fat white guys last.
You go first.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah, you said do the fat white guys last.
Trust me, I can tell you this with certainty that everyone would much rather hear from you than I.
I thought that's why Miah was being saved for last, because she had the most demand on the Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I can transition into the group questions with you more easily than I can her.
Yeah, okay. So
Miah.
What's up, Chris?
What is there to be said about you? You have freshly grown boobs.
It's funny because me and you have known each other out of this group the longest.
I've known
as far
him.
as me.
I went to like church with him, but I knew
it's
on a personal basis.
Yeah, I mean we got really close on the campaign.
Very close.
And we've kind of it's kind of neat to see the friendships that have come out of this podcast and the people we know, because I mean honestly I can't imagine this group of people becoming friends outside of this podcast.
No.
Maybe acquaintances at different groups or something like that.
I mean, charming too, Miah.
Well, no, I'm saying we all come from very kind of unique walks of life, and we've all kind of converged at this point, I think, because of this podcast.
The island of misfit toys.
We've collected, and one of the things that I've really wanted to do is take a group of people from a common geographic area who have one thing in common, which is political beliefs, but are from very different walks of life. You can't get any different from you to Ryan Ripley. You know, Ryan Ripley, who's a very, very Christian fellow. Nothing wrong with that. I am as well.
He screams, Mark.
Don't worry about that, guys. My couch is broken, so that's why you see the things under the couch. Yeah, you can't get, you know,
pushing on it.
Joe to Joe to Miah, very different personalities, but very similar in some ways. But yeah, it's been fun over the last few years, almost 3 years, to kind of get to know everybody.
And I think one thing that can be said about this podcast and what it's done over the years from its beginning with three white dudes.
That's how everything began.
Right. Yeah, with a bunch of white dudes.
I colonized this podcast.
But is that we all are all very different. We all have lots of agreements. We've all grown together.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely to be said. But it kind of screams what the core of libertarianism is, that we can all be different. We can all believe different things. We can all have different viewpoints, but we can all come together for that simple core belief of leave me the piss alone and get the guns out of my face.
Right.
Like
for the most part.
From Warriors.
Pull
all
on
the gangs there.
Yeah, I mean, we got Harry here. Everyone here is very unique in kind of their own right, and we've got the Peffers here that they represent one kind of slice of society. We've got Brett that represents one. Greg, you, everyone kind of can represent kind of a clique of society. And it's very fun to watch this. I mean, Greg, I would have rather shot Greg a year ago than ever sat in a room with him willingly. I mean, it's just...
I know. I'm very proud of you for not punching anyone. And I mean, Creighton, he's not been hit once.
My revenge and my rage comes years and decades down the road when you least expect it in the ways you'll never see coming.
In a voluntary dystopia where
I have a very bad memory where I forget things and I forget people. I forget people exist if they're not in front of me. That's why I love Facebook.
Jump on a clock tower right now.
But I remember things years down the road and random dreams and different things pique my memory, and I'll remember the rage and it'll come back and I'll slaughter all of you. Saying something like that in a note to an ex-girlfriend in high school is the reason I was expelled too. Maybe I should watch my fucking mouth.
May she rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, pieces.
Rest in pieces.
So no, this podcast, no matter how many listeners it has been a huge changing force in the world. I think I know a lot of people either through this podcast or the podcast I've done that you've helped me do. I've talked to a lot of people, and I've had a lot of people send me a message on Facebook and call me and stuff and just say, I might not agree with everything you say, but you've helped me see the world in a different way. And a lot of thanks, a lot of heartfelt messages have come out. A lot of people are like, thank you for standing up and saying whatever. And I think that can be said with everyone that's ever been on this podcast, no matter how little they may have contributed, is that this thing has done. Maybe it's not as big as what we all would really wish it to be. Maybe it's not, but we've reached people. Yeah. We've changed minds. We've touched people in very good ways.
Yeah, I think this time last year we really were hoping that it would be a national. We were planning on making it a national brand, and that at a certain point, especially when I started to have to get up at 5 a.m. every day, and then when I went through the Great Possession Divide, said, all right, let's just have fun and do what we do and do this for ourselves. And then when demand finally gets to a point where people are willing to pay for it, or when people can't live without it, or whatever, let's just do it for ourselves. And if we do it for ourselves and have fun doing it, then everybody else will follow. And I think that's definitely been the case, where it's kind of been, you miss a week and people are like,
you got
where the hell
11
are
people
you?
in a room, 2 days after Christmas.
Yeah. And there's 5 more people that should be here that couldn't make it.
And that's saying something.
Or chose not to come.
Or chose not to come.
You know, the Facebook page might not be the most active thing in the world, but the people that listen to this and the people that are forced to listen to this because of a strong follower forces their family to listen to it. I mean, that's pretty huge. I mean, this podcast, maybe it's not as big as some of these other joke podcasts or whatever else out there, and it's not as big as Bob and Tom yet. It's kind of amazing, and the stories we have we
get more meme shares.
We get more meme shares. The memes have been going really good, which is great.
That's impressive. We had like 1,000 on that one.
Our Facebook page, all of a sudden, with a little help from Julie Borowski, has become like almost an elite libertarian page, like thousands of shares. It's ridiculous. It's like Brett Bittner's running it.
Just eat it. Just
almost,
eat it.
Chris.
Almost.
I always find it interesting the advocates for self-government have never shared one of our memes.
That's not true.
They've stolen some of ours, but
yeah, we're never credited.
Right.
Right.
Let's talk to. Can you hand the mic to Joe and Mikki?
I make them.
Wait, hold on now.
We'll come back because you brought up an interesting point because we do have a member of the captive audience. You make Joe. You make your wife because we know you make your wife do anything.
He doesn't make me do anything.
I know. That's why I said I know. That's why it's funny. You have listened. How has this podcast changed your views? Where did you start? Like, has it made you think those people are total idiots, or like have there been issues where you've kind of gone, oh, I never saw it that way?
Actually, a lot.
Really?
I think when Joe and I got together, we were both Democrats, voted Democrat. And then Joe started reading all kinds of crazy books like the Constitution and stuff.
Federalist Papers.
All those papers. Yeah. That was in the beginning. And so he started bouncing ideas off of me. And I was like, oh, I guess I never thought of it that way. And then I remember we had to drive our kids back and forth to his mom's, which is like an hour drive, 45 minutes. And he'd pop in the podcast. It started a dialogue, I would say. Lots of conversations, bouncing ideas off of each other, things we never thought about before, and we actually started to care. You know, I think once you have kids, you get out of school, you graduate, you start your careers, you want to know where your taxes are going, you're paying crazy money in health insurance.
Right.
So now you start to care, you're invested, and so it started dialogues. It was good.
I've heard that from a few people. The episode Rachel's story recently, you know, where this guy forced his wife to listen to the podcast, and she would kind of had some of the same reaction, but then when she heard Rachel's story, you know, and the message that we had in that's when she went, oh, I get it. Government is something that can kill people. It's not just a tool for good. It can make mistakes. It is fallible, and it is something that can be very harmful, and we need to rethink this and take this seriously. So that's encouraging to hear because we just do it for ourselves. I mean, it's at this point. I mean, I know that it's fun to get together and hang out with Greg and whoever our third or fourth is that week, and you know.
I don't know about you, but I'm holding out for when we get big and we can monetize.
That's me too, buddy. Me too. You know, we've had a few people donate and all that, and we love that. But hopefully someday, Audible.com, that helps us pay for.
Does that still run before?
Yeah, every once. I would say I've made at least $130 off of Audible.com. It's pretty sweet, but very cool. So, and I think Miah people will constantly ask me, you know, especially when we have like an Eric Gardner situation or an Eric Dorner situation, and then Miah gets on and you know, kill all the cops. Which is a pretty you know, all soldiers are evil, all that kind of thing. You have somebody who has such an polarizing opinion and extreme position. Miah, everything Miah does is extreme.
It's a brand of chips in the 90s. Extreme.
A big part of it is, you know, Miah served in the military.
Right. Yeah, I think. Am I the only veteran here? Yeah.
So like it's. Or no, Dan is.
Yeah, you too. Okay.
So it's one of those things where it comes with credibility.
Oh, you're one of those crazy sons of bitches. Oh, stay away from me.
What?
Explosive ordnance disposal, EOD. He's those crazy people that dick with bombs and stuff,
right?
Or usually just stands around and watches them and go, okay, well, this is what I do now. I just watch the bombs. And I was.
Are you awake?
I was a robot to poke it with a stick.
I was security forces, so I was basically a cop in the military. So,
right. And I think that's where a lot of yours came from, didn't it?
No,
having to be in that role.
When I joined the military, I was a Christian. I was a racist. I was a sexist. I was horribly racist.
You were sort of Hitler's
now you're not
ideal.
Now you're not a Christian anymore.
I'm a deist.
I know. I'm teasing you.
But I was hardcore Republican. I hated hippies. I hated pot. Hated drugs. Hated black people, Mexicans, beaners, spics, chinks, zipperheads, all of them. I was Clint Eastwood.
Shut up.
On Gran Torino.
Shut up, Greg.
And even after I got out, it was the memories and the experience I had that I eventually pulled on to get to where I am. But it was once the ball started rolling and I was in the military and I saw how things work and I saw, I did an introspect and looked at my mentality while I was there, and it's like I was so excited to try to get the ability to get deployed overseas so I could kill towelheads. That was a huge driving force, and not only with me, but all the people I knew when I was, we did a TDY we were going to go to New Orleans and provide security on the ground. Active duty military people on the ground providing security. New Orleans, we all thought it was exciting, 18 of us, exciting the idea to shoot U.S. citizens. When I pulled on that later, and that mentality and what happened, and 18 of us went through the airport carrying our ARs and our 9mm onto the plane in cases with ammo. We carried our guns on the plane. They still make us take off our boots and our blouses and take everything off and still have to go through, metal detectors. I'm like, I'm carrying guns on the plane. What's wrong with you?
Snakes on a plane.
Snakes on a plane. It was eventually a reason why I kind of came to the conclusions I did with the military and everything else, but that's not real. I didn't start there. I went to the source. The idea behind the standing military, an idea behind the big voluntary force, and how it's treated, and how society hero worships, and seeing how people treat cops and government employees like they're some special race of people. So that's.
So how did you get to the? I mean. How did you get rid of your violent mentality, Miah?
Oh, I'm extremely violent.
I know. You walked in here with an AR-15, pointing it at everyone, going bang, 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 bang.
No, I came in here.
Felt like a scene from Set It Off.
Get on the ground. I mean, at any point in time, we are all on a government watch list. If not because of things you've done, it's because you're associated with me.
Right.
Yes. My file started before I was even 18, with my brother being a drug dealer and a murderer and all kinds of other things, and then my biological mother being a drug dealer and a horrible fucking person. And then I got in the military and I had a secret clearance guarding nukes.
Editor's note.
Yeah. And so my file started.
Please stand up.
I guess federally, when I joined the military and got a secret clearance and combat training and everything else. And so then everything from there on, working on campaigns, working with some groups that I'm not going to name because that's pretty scary, doing some shady shit. So my list is quite large. And at any point in time, for any reason, the cops decided to, because they know that this podcast has talked ill about cops, they know the YouTube video I made talking about the morality of killing cops in defensive force, is that they could bust through this door at any point in time and arrest all of us. They've arrested people for distributing anarchist materials before. They've arrested people for things much less than... Well, they're going after and charging a guy that said, in quotation marks, put wings on pigs. So that pales in comparison to some of the things we've said and we've done and the people we've associated with us. So at any point in time, they could walk through this door with their shiny little badges, put us all on the floor, and take us all away. And that's the reality we live in.
But make sure you guys get some tuna casserole before that happens, because I made a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably steal it and shoot your cats, but, that's cool.
Well, those aren't dogs.
Okay. I think Miah, more than anybody, challenges everybody. And
it's
that's
the Overton window.
Yeah, and everybody, I can't believe she's like that. I don't mind that she's trans. It's just the way that she says things that I don't like. And
yeah, well, the world's a very harsh place. The world is a
Jim Gaffigan or something?
Actually, he is on Bob and Tom.
The answer to that is yes. We're bros.
No, but get him on the podcast.
We have a twillation.
And a lot of people come from this podcast thinking I'm a horrible, vile person, which is probably the least, the furthest from the truth.
Yeah.
Anybody that knows me personally, I mean, what I'm doing right now, I spent some time unemployed, and now I'm working for gas money and free lunches at Rupert's Kids charity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working hard labor using skills that bring $15, $16 to up to $20 an hour. I could go get a job and make $15, $20 an hour easy with my skill set. But I'm helping rebuild Rupert's Kids. I'm helping him expand his charity and help people. I mean, just this past week right before Christmas, I went and spent, instead of me and Emily buying us anything or doing anything else or buying anything at all for a house, I bought all the participants in the program a whole tool belt filled with tools, spent like $250 on it. And it's like, I think that's where I see where a lot of libertarians are just like that too. We don't always talk about the good we do. And so we do, because we don't flaunt it like a lot of people feel they need to, is that I think there's a lot of good people here that do good things. And we live a very libertarian life where we will help people. We do hold our hands out for people and help people up and help them along.
It's easier to talk about how much the government sucks than it is to talk about doing good or even doing good. Or it's easier to talk about the negative than it is to talk about the positive, which is one of the things that we've tried to do here is offer solutions and talk about it.
Well, and another problem is
we've definitely had our doom episodes where we're all screwed.
A lot of us are humble.
A lot of us, yes.
Yeah,
especially me. I might be the most humble person in the room.
The things you've done to help people, you never talk about.
Yeah.
No one will ever really know all the good things you've done to help people. You've sacrificed parts of yourself, your time, your money, your life to help people. But
I don't
we're
help
humble.
anyone. Greed is good.
Greed is very good. We try not to do anything for free, but when you see people down and out since we know that a lot of the situations where people are harmed and hurt and down and out are a product of government, we do what we do best, is we stand up against that and we help these people. We don't go and go, there should be a law or we need to get, like in government services or, anything else. We stand up and we do things on our own to help people.
I think part of the struggle that I've faced over basically since leaving the Libertarian Party and then moving into out of politics and I've stopped looking at politics as the solution. And I just feel more and more that, our podcast gets a limited audience and we're preaching to the choir a lot. But I think, and I don't know if anybody else has evolved to this point as well, the only true power that I have is what I can do to help somebody else, basically giving of my time or my money. Can I give somebody time? Can I donate money? Or can I choose through the market what I buy? For instance, I eat an organic diet by and large. And it's not because I'm an anti-GMO person, whatever. It's because I would rather give money to a small farmer who is trying to fight against the large corporate farming system that you see in a movie like Food Inc. I want to help support the small farmer. So I'm going to give my money to people who are trying to care about the animals and the food that they're producing, as opposed to giving it to Kraft, who tries to do some good, but by and large, somebody like Tyson doesn't give a shit about chickens, whereas somebody like Joel Salatin does, And so I'd rather give my money to him than to Tyson. That's the power that we have. The power that we have is buying tool belts for participants. Because putting our time and energy and effort into political action is limited, and it sucks for candidates who are awesome, who need help, who need time, who need money, to have people like most of us in this room just say, I want to help you, but I've got to give my time to this over here.
And it's when you start seeing the world a more cynical way and you start questioning government, like with the charity and some of the stuff we're doing, we're trying to help. There's a program where you help down and out people, and I'm not going to go into any details because I would rather not. But we're seeing people that are taking advantage of the system. There's people that really need help, need lots of help, that are so far living in abject poverty and can't literally can't do for themselves, and then we're watching other people that are taking advantage of the situation. There's nothing we can do about it. I don't care if there's a candidate that runs or anything else. You're 20 years down the road before any of that gets changed, and I think helping people with the way I do things, being so harsh and brash and extreme, if I can get a couple people to change their mind, that's a couple more people that'll help more.
I think people should take advantage of the system more, not less. Here's
well,
why.
I'm not going to disagree with that. Now, I'm saying that you should take from the system as much as you can.
Yes. Every dollar you take is a dollar they can't spend.
But that's for people that know what's going on in our situation. What I'm saying is that there's people taking advantage of the situation while people assume that this system is helping people. When it's not, then when you have these programs that talk about that you expect the cops that'll protect you, when they don't, they respond, they're reactive. When you think about all these other programs and all these like welfare and everything else that's supposedly helping people are constantly taking advantage of it. But when you're cynical and you see it, instead of assuming that the system is taking care of those people, you take care of those people. With the small amount of funds you have left over after the government steals all of it. And then I think it's funny when you guys were making fun of me for being a hipster libertarian or hipster whatever. I was hating the cops before.
First off, no one was making fun of you. Harry just implied that you had been hating it for the longest time.
Well, I mean, when I start off
before it was cool, you were OG.
Yeah, I am the logical conclusion. It might be extreme. I am the logical conclusion. Well, no,
it's true.
Okay, you look at Ferguson, and I'll have up 5 or 6 live streams of every single protest. I've been following Ferguson and everything else, live stream, watching it as it happens, stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning until it's all done, following every last bit of it. And I've watched these protesters in, say, like Oakland and everywhere else go from Black Lives Matter to end police brutality to please, for the love of God, don't shoot me, to please end the police state. Please stop being so authoritarian and violent and militaristic. They've gone from this is a flash in the pan hashtag movement to, oh my God, something's wrong. This is wrong on every level. And they've seen it firsthand, and it's changed. And it's now people are killing cops on the streets. People are going up and saying...
One person is.
Well, hypothetically, well, no. There's the dude in Pennsylvania. There's the dude in New York. There's the dude in, hypothetically, maybe in Florida. There's Christopher Dorner. There's the guy. There's 2 different people up in Canada. So, I mean, there's quite a few examples in this past year alone. This is the year of the dead cops. And
oh, Jesus.
No, that's no, really, it is.
That's a soundbite for you, Chris.
No, that's what you can call it because that's.
Yeah, not the episode title I was hoping for our 100th.
No, but like if you watch what happened.
Into the mic. Into the mic. Into the mic, bro.
If you watch what happened in Pennsylvania, watch the cops pour out all this money to go after someone that killed one of their own.
One and a half their own.
Yeah, 1.5 their own. They wouldn't even spend half, and even half that budget.
Okay, it wasn't even worth going to trial for a lot of these civilian killings.
Well, they put up these mock trials. Yeah, and if they do, it's all mock.
If I walked in here and shot every single one of you, and then left, they would spend a pittance of the time and resources they did trying to chase down that one dude in Pennsylvania.
Right. It's because we're libertarians.
11 people could die by gunmen.
Just a terrorist fight. Yeah.
And they would not nearly spend as much resources as time. They wouldn't shut down hunting season. They wouldn't shut down roads and everything else. Mm-hmm, and that's kind of the point to make is that you have court cases and judges saying that a cop's word is more viable than the recording. You have them making, Supreme Courts, circuit courts saying that cops do not have a duty to protect you. That cops' job is to enforce the law, not to protect people. And that's what their job description is, and that's what people are starting to learn. It's no longer about that thin blue line and the cops are here to help you and, you got to call, like I look at the Irvington people over here, and they sit there and they call the cops when someone throws trash out of their window. They call the cops when, somebody they don't recognize is walking down the street. But all of them are scared to death to do anything for themselves.
Well, part of... Go ahead, Eric.
Well, they're believing into the propaganda, just that the world outside is unsafe. That if you walk outside of Indianapolis, you're going to get murdered. When most of the murders happening here in Indianapolis are people with huge rap sheets are doing stuff when they get shot. They're either doing shady deals because the government has placed them people into this terrible black market, and so people get shot in that type of black market society. But when the thing is, people brought the propaganda. It's like, oh, when a crime happens, the police come in, they take fingerprints, they do all this type of CSI work inside of someone's house for a crime. That doesn't really happen.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Anthony Bourdain lately, and he went on his new CNN show to Detroit. You can see it on Netflix. And he was talking about Parts Unknown. He said the only place that looks like Detroit that he's been, and he's been all over the world, is Chernobyl. And, the city just announced one day that they just weren't going to take care of parks. They were closing parks, which means they were hauling off the trash cans, and they were just not going to mow the lawns anymore. And so a guy bought a riding lawnmower, collected a group of citizens, and they just started mowing all the parks. Now, they're not as nicely kept as when Rupert's Kids takes care of the Indianapolis parks, but kids can go and play, and it's not surrounded by weeds. So in the absence of government doing something as simple or as little as mowing parks, it was done by local citizens.
Well, it got pressed for different reasons. With that guy went all the way to D.C. to mow the
during the government shutdown. Yeah. And so I think people see the concept of, they see the absence of government as something that is oh God, the world will end without the government.
Well, with the presence of government, they stop stuff.
Right.
When that also happened here, also on the east side of Indianapolis, when all the homes went up for a lot of homes got evicted, a lot of people got moved out. So there's tons of different houses with tall grass on it. I'm going to say his name again, Joel, one of the local libertarians. He got a bunch of people together with extra gasoline and lawnmowers and started cutting those grasses, and actually got stopped by IMPD because he's technically trespassing and can't be cutting some of these vacant lots.
With the growth of government aid in especially the 30s with FDR, then the Great Society, and over the last decade, you see the shutting down of nonprofits, of mutual aid societies, and the Christian community, which is, the Christians, the Muslims, the Jews, all religions, you're supposed to help your fellow man. That's a key tenet of your religion. And they say, oh, I pay my taxes. And so they give less to charity. And if we didn't have as much government services, we would feel more of a responsibility to take care of people. And
take care of ourselves as well. Look at the FDA, the USDA, and everything else that goes back to the police ideas that no one takes care of themselves.
In the slow food movement, in the organic food movement, you can go and watch live video streams of the chickens from the eggs that you will buy. Now, you can't verify that that's necessarily the...
Well, I mean, look at what we do to milk.
What's happening.
And we ruin milk. The only reason we have to refrigerate our eggs is because we strip off the protective coating on the outside. The rest of the world laughs at us for having to refrigerate our eggs. And so on and so forth. You have all these issues, but like Harry was saying, it's hard to help people.
So when you give up the power to the government to help people, go back and listen to episode 92 with Rachel's story. And we'll have more stories coming soon. Anybody who is involved in any kind of social work can tell you how much of a nightmare dealing with the government is. And I think part of what you're talking about, Miah, Joe and Mikki are the only two that are qualified. They have legitimate children. I don't know if any of you have illegitimate children. Greg's left the room.
Greg has 3 in Mexico.
3 in Mexico. Part of what I think Miah is saying is that when you have a child, can you please get off the couch? Can you please get off of the table? Okay, that gets ignored. I said get off the table. Okay, that gets ignored. You have 5 seconds to get off that table before you go in the corner. And then they ignore that. All right, you're in the corner for 2 minutes. Then they get out of the corner, so you spank them. And it's just an escalation. You start with please, and then you have to escalate to the point where people start to take your shit serious.
It's like you've been in my living room.
I know, yeah. I might have nieces.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
I might babysit nieces and nephews that I have to put in the corner a lot.
There are people that are able to raise their children with the please still works.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so
sure.
it's a matter of how you...
It depends on the temperament of the child at the time, because if they're in a good mood, please works. And sometimes, but I think America is at with every issue, with every stage, with every issue, every incident, we're finding that please no longer works. That doesn't work.
Harry brought up a really good point, and I always forget to do this. Is that I remember some of the libertarian meetings we'd read the Declaration of Independence. If you read that today, right now, you'll shit your pants. Realize that we went to war, violent revolution, for basically 1870s.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at some of the ills of society. Why are people always persecuted? Why is there always a group that's hated? Why is there still still so much, inherent racism and everything else? And who segregated government offices in the military back in the early 1900s? Government did.
Right.
Who passed Jim Crow laws? Government did. Who did all these horrible things? Who helped? What government-backed organization said that homosexuality was a mental sickness, an illness? Who at one point in time backed the idea that hysteria in women and women needing to be locked up on their periods was something? The government. The government takes the worst of society.
Are we
and
against that
codifies
position
it.
now? Is that you're not? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
because
no, and it's a joke now. But women, husbands that didn't care for their wives to say they have hysteria when they're on their periods or they're going through menopause, or whatever, and they're hot flashes, they were possessed in churches and stuff. They would, and then they would experiment on these people with drugs, and that's how the modern pharmaceutical industry started. Is experimenting on the people that society didn't like in mental institutions and shit, in mental hospitals. But that was all government backed. That was all started with this system of power.
Well, a lot of it starts with Woodrow Wilson, who segregated the military. He resegregated the military.
Right.
Yeah. Starts Margaret Sanger, and the beginning of Planned Parenthood was to
and that's also
help
the time
wipe out
period
the black
where
race.
we did the Prussian model of forced schooling. That ran like a factory.
It is the
line.
idea that government exists for good, so we should give government the power, give the collective the power to we have these desirable outcomes, so how can we make these outcomes come true? Let's give power to the government. And go ahead.
What's funny is that is a progressive mentality, like a academic sense progressivism. And it's funny, like a lot of progressives nowadays still believe that, like your kind of Jon Stewart kind of liberals. They're like, government can be a means of promoting good. It can do good things in the world, and that's kind of like what liberals believe, Right. But there's a guy, I forget his first name. His last name was Kolko. He wrote a book called The Triumph of Conservatism, and he basically showed that all of these progressive ideals, all these things that and he is a socialist too, and all these things that progressives support are things that really were just pushed by the enemies of progressives, like big business and all this. Like the FDA is a great example. It was the Meat Inspection Act, and it was supposed to keep the meat industries in check after the jungle, when in fact it was actually those Chicago meat packing plants that pushed for that legislation. Right. So it's like stuff like that. So progressives really don't even realize that all of these things that they think they support were actually supported by the very enemies that they're trying to stop.
Yeah, and we see that time and time again. I mean, you see modern acts, things like the Farm Bill written by Tyson Foods. You see, in the wake of the bailouts, government insiders, just this revolving door from the banking industry helping the Treasury. Right? Look at Hank Paulson, who wrote the bailouts.
The Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve is a great example. It's created by bankers.
Well, and then it's funny we brought up FEMA camps earlier.
Oh boy!
Talk to the Japanese about FEMA camps. Yeah. I dare you. Talk to anybody of like Eastern European descent about FEMA camps and ask them how they feel about being Eastern European in the U.S. during the 50s.
Japanese internment camps are a great example of what Maya's talking about. Like a lot of people, I think, who support. Who are kind of like the blind support of police in every situation. The ones who said that Eric Garner put up a resistance so he deserved what he got. Those kind of people. I mean, they're under the impression that the police and or military will never be used in an invasion style sense on the American people. Right. And like I've actually gotten into arguments with people.
Unless you watch the aftermath of the Boston bombing.
And it's not even that. Like I said, and you can just tell them, I assume that FDR must have marched his wheelchair down to the West Coast and put all those Japanese in those camps by himself. Because those were cops following orders, military following orders, doing that.
Then look at Hawaii. Well, look at the military dictatorship that was started in Hawaii during the war after the attacks on Pearl Harbor. Everyone in Hawaii was living underneath military rule, and no one talks about that. No one remembers about that because you had to turn your lights off at night. You were strict curfew. They were interrogating random people if they looked weird. Everything. You couldn't take pictures of anything. The markets were highly, the grocery stores were highly controlled and everything. The president signed off on giving a general complete control of Hawaii. That happened not too long ago.
Please don't fire that. I heard it click.
No, you heard him release the magazine.
Okay.
But then now you have cops saying that they need tanks.
They're getting tanks.
And need armored personnel carriers. Now, the thing about the tanks is, that's been going since the 90s.
Yeah.
Look at the 80s in the movies. Remember when you start seeing the cops always pulling out their ARs and stuff, the military surplus? This shit's been going on for 30-plus years. Look at what happened with the cops and everything back in like the Prohibition age. They started getting machine guns and everything else, and what they did to people and how they went in and they beat up people for being suspected of having alcohol. Same thing's happening with drugs these days, and people talk about, now you've got cops in Connecticut saying they won't enforce the gun ban, and people up in Washington saying they won't enforce the gun ban, and the cops won't, they won't violate that law.
Well, and I think what's happening is we know we're in charge, and to go back to the child analogy, when you are in charge, you know you're in charge. Joe's taking pictures of everybody. Joe, Mikki, back me up here. When you are disciplining a child, you know you're in charge, but they're not listening, and so you keep escalating, and there just comes a certain point after so many times of saying, no, 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 you feel like you're going crazy. And that you've lost your mind.
A grown-up timeout.
A grown-up timeout. And I feel like the nation is finally at that point where we've just lost our mind. You got to go to your room. Sit before I beat this child. I'm going to go sit in my room and just be quiet. And I feel like as a society, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party, no matter what political philosophy, engaged, not engaged, we're there. I think that's why you see somebody like Jon Stewart, who thinks that the government can be used for good, begins his show after the Eric Garner decision just going, I don't know what to do. I got nothing. I just can't figure. I don't get it.
But the problem is that we might be there, a few of us. You got that remember that 3% rule back with the revolution?
Right.
We can't do that. If we speak up and we speak our mind, when I made that YouTube video and I got put under investigation by 3 different freaking police departments in Indianapolis for making a video talking about morality.
Where's Greg?
Yeah, well, Greg's outside.
Keep going.
And you speak up, you speak your mind, and you say the things that should have been said decades ago, you disappear.
Yeah.
Look at what the CIA has done to so many people that go, that guy kind of looks like he might be a terrorist. Disappeared for years, tortured. Look at what they do to people. Look at what's in the National Defense Act or whatever, the NDAA. You look at what's in there, what they can do to us, what they do to people. You have peaceful protesters
up their butt.
and you have soldiers. You have soldiers basically on U.S. streets, soldiers pointing guns at people, shooting tear gas, which is not even allowed to be used in the time of war in the battlefield. You have all this stuff.
All right.
What are you supposed to do? If you're angry and you want to stand up to the state, what method do any of us have right now to stand up to the state?
Start a podcast. We got to wrap up fairly soon because I know Peffers has to go back to Colorado and smoke some weed.
Take me with you.
Where'd Greg go?
I don't know, but we need to finish.
I've got to say this one point.
He's quitting on us.
But like with Jon Stewart's, like he doesn't know anymore. Talking about the revolution, that's how Benjamin Franklin was. Yeah. He was the biggest supporter to trying to keep the colonies and England together. But when they finally started going after him, and when he finally switched sides, that's when everyone started to make the push.
Harry, you need to watch 1776 because that's not the case.
Sit down, Brett.
If you get through like the Benjamin Franklin's a lot of their documentary, a lot of his history, he was trying to keep the peace.
All right, hand microphones to the brothers Peffers because they got to go. Boys, anything that you'd like to say to the people before we end this episode?
No one does it better than Colorado. No one does legal marijuana better than Colorado.
You, sir, are a traitor to your state.
They don't do legal.
Yeah, we don't do legal marijuana here. So.
Yeah, you're right.
You mean they don't beg for permission as well as anyone else? Is that what you're saying? That they don't beg permission to be able to smoke a plant that grows?
That's what you
We
missed
didn't
while you're
beg.
outside,
We
Greg.
told Washington what we were doing,
Yeah.
and we decided to do it.
It is. It's nullification. It's straight up nullification.
What did you say that your job was earlier? Dealing with what, compliance?
The state of Colorado
comply,
keeps
serf. You
The
slave.
state of Colorado keeps us keeps the DEA off our door. I keep the MED off our door.
Miah lives in this world where she doesn't have to deal with anyone.
Peffers, just tell him like Kermit the Frog, man. It ain't easy being green.
You just keep asking, being allowed to do natural things. Just be grateful that the state has allowed you to partake in a weed.
How do I put the cat back on the Miah
to
bottle?
acknowledge that at any point you can be coerced.
She was
by
so
a
good
state
for
much
90
more
minutes.
powerful than yourself, as you just previously described.
All right, Chris Peffers.
I guess just stop killing people, cops. That's kind of a bummer.
Get a real job.
Yeah, like
You're bumming me out, bro.
if you're gonna act like a gang,
Just stop killing people,
Yeah,
bro.
man.
if you're gonna act like a gang, other
bumming
gangs
me
are gonna come for you.
Come on, man. Be chill.
I
Be
want to
chill.
see heartfelt stories on the news.
Yeah, that's my ideal news. Yeah, squirrels, water.
So, are you excited about
that's
the
Oprah.
fact that the NYPD is turning their back on their own mayor and are releasing statements that now it is wartime?
No,
for
the
police?
NYPD's being kind of a
Hey,
big
if they're
bag of
fighting with
shit,
each other,
but
then that means they
All right.
can't be fighting with normal people.
All right, fellas. It's been a pleasure seeing you.
Yo, happy 100th.
Thank you very much for joining us. Have
Merry
fun.
Christmas.
Safe travels back to Colorado.
I am very glad that I got to stop in and say hi while I was in town.
Piss off.
Nice to meet you in person.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
It is amazing how many people like Peffers, like you talk to Joe every day. You
Yeah,
never met Miah before.
Yeah, Maya and I have had a couple exchanges, and
Mo-
Joe and
mostly
I have had-
non-polite.
usually calling each other out on podcasts.
Miah doesn't do a lot of things politely.
Non-compliance
Yeah.
is her whole life story.
Being polite is a false construct of society.
All right.
Well, yeah, it's nice meeting Maya for the first time. It's nice meeting Joe Ruiz for the first time. And you were Harry.
Harry, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Harry. And,
All right, hand that mic to Harry. All right. Thanks for joining us, Brothers Peffers. Greg.
See y'all later.
Dan, good to see you, brother. Always. Chris, come back on since you live here.
I probably should. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep supplying the food chain of America.
I enjoyed the Meyer stores very much.
Oh,
Dan-
you just mentioned the employer.
Peppers, for the record,
Bleep
next
that
time
out.
I expect some edibles of some sort.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Greg, you are still a scumbag Republican for the most part, but since January of December of 2012-ish, so over the last 2 years, how would you say that you have evolved being in the trenches with me for this podcast?
Well, I had made it almost. Well, I've said before, Maya is sort of my benchmark on philosophical things. But up until today, I was really committed and believed in it. And then we had this podcast, and now hope is lost. Hope is completely lost. Are you getting on Tinder now?
I'm going to the bathroom. I'm going to the bathroom, so Joe's in charge.
I like how you stopped
Vote
and straddled me.
vote of faith. Vote of confidence for you.
Just jiggle to the left.
He's jiggling to the left. Oh. What happened? This is why anarchy doesn't work, Joe. Creighton, it's good to have you
To the
back.
left, and now you're speaking in Latin.
I guess.
Erectus majoris.
There was nothing majorous about what just happened to me. I felt a small poke.
Just the tip.
And in case you were wondering, right now, Chris Spangle is sit peeing. He's a stand wiper, but he's
Hey,
a
it's
sit
his house.
peer.
He do what he won't.
It is, you know. This is his own.
Whoa. Wait, we've had this discussion before. This has been a topic of discussion before.
What, how
You've
Chris
gone through this-
pees?
Almost the same rant before. I've remembered on the podcast making fun of Chris for sit peeing, stand wiping.
Yeah.
You're recycling old material, you hack.
Well, the listenership has expanded, and I don't encourage everyone to go back and listen to the catalog because it's not exactly great
the 100th
content.
episode, so that you got to bring back all the stuff like jiggle to the left.
It's just continuity of message.
Exactly.
You have to
Yeah.
reiterate.
So basically, the overarching theme over many episodes is how Chris pees.
We are sit peers.
We are libertarians.
We are
high
libertarians.
quality entertainment network.
You should not have left me in charge.
Well, it's like Chris got up, like you were in the middle of telling your story, and then Chris got up, and you're like, "Well, I guess I'll talk about how he pees."
Yeah. Well, he stopped very awkwardly, straddled me, did a slight squat, if you will, and I'm just saying, I felt a nubbin. I felt a nubbin.
Are you still talking about my penis?
No, never.
We started a Monopoly game. You just chose the thimble.
About liberty or something. Jeez.
I want to talk about everyone's penis for a minute.
Yep.
I know.
Harry's gone.
Harry has the biggest penis in the room by far.
That's racist.
Well, he just went to the bathroom, and that camera in there.
But I'm going to say, because I've seen them outside of my body, I had, past tense, the biggest balls in the room.
I'd say you've changed the most since we started this podcast.
A little bit.
You lost your nuts.
I have decided that I'm going to make my riches directing porn, and in my first porn is going to be a spin-off series of Xena Warrior Princess. Miah, you are welcome to star, but your screen name has to be Lucy Ballas.
Oh, shit. I could do that. Actually, you know what's funny is I posted a whole bunch of the surgery before and after pics and everything else on my Tumblr.
We saw.
And
Not by
something,
choice.
I guess
No,
something
we
was
may
on my
never
cell
unsee
phone
that.
or something. Like I have my account linked to my phone, and I started getting these notifications I'd always ignored. And over the past week or so, right before Christmas, because that makes a lot of sense, is started getting a lot of notes, like a lot of notes, which is kind of like a like or a comment on a Tumblr post and a share. And my surgery pics have been getting very popular on Tumblr lately, and it kind of scares me.
I'm eating.
Yeah, well, just imagine your scrotum empty, but the size of a grapefruit filled with blood and pus.
Hard pass.
Did you ever answer the question how you changed, Greg?
I told you I had made a full 180, and then we had this podcast, and now I'm right back to Cheneyism. Right back to Muslim hate, conservative Christianity.
I mean, I'm literally, because I'm so, I removed 2,500 friends on Facebook. I did a complete and total purge.
With murder.
Well, some of them it should have been, but going quiet. I think my love for Stalinist Russia and Lenin and Putin, those people, I'm actually going to start turning away from voluntarism and go to anarcho-warlordism. The strong survive.
So you're moving to Somalia.
Actually, if I had the funding, I would literally get a good 20, 30 people and some supplies and a nice little boat, and I'd go over to Somalia and I would free those people.
Liberate.
I'd liberate those people from the warring factions and from the UN and everything else.
All right, we got to start wrapping up.
No, we don't. Let's talk about taking over Somalia, the libertarian paradise. If you don't like it, leave.
This is my house.
If you don't like it, leave.
Get out.
Move to Somalia with your rules.
Yeah. You know what? Let's go watch the interview, and then when it's over, chant USA, USA.
The funniest line may not have been on mic. Harry just yelled at, if you don't like... What did you say?
Move to Somalia with your rules.
Yeah, move to Somalia with your rules.
Pass a law, bro.
All right, let's go this way so we can wait for Joe to get back. Let's wrap up. I don't care what you talk about. Talk about your favorite moments. You can talk about the topic that engaged you the most. You can talk about
the
my
favorite
penis.
outfit that you saw me wearing. Was it the black tutu?
Wait a minute. I just noticed you're not wearing tie-dye.
I'm not.
And you are.
Mm-hmm.
What's happened?
I thought about wearing tie-dye, but I wanted to wear something special because we have a lady here.
Something special, so we did one color.
I spent the night. This is actually Chris's shirt. I spent the night.
I've heard you cuss before.
He's an extremely soft lover. He really is.
The term is generous and thorough. Thank you.
And he, you know what? What's the word for very very?
You need to post this episode on OkCupid.
Let's just say that when he fills a cup, it's more than half full.
Okay.
His cup runneth over.
His cup runneth over.
All right.
Lots of pent up frustration.
Okay. Thank you.
Take up my body as if it is.
It's definitely time to end the show.
We need an orgy. Everyone naked.
We have ran out of material.
Anarchy.
I'm turning my mic down. Greg, take us out. What has been your favorite moment? What have you learned? Give us your final thoughts here on the episode 100.
Because
there's sure shit won't be 200. Okay, go ahead.
You know, the last time you used to make jokes about hard endings like first and last year of marriage, it came true. So I'm hoping that there is not only 200 episodes or 199, if you will.
We'll see if the listeners behave.
It was quite prescient of you to make that.
I know
that joke.
This is my wife Samantha. We're in our
first and last year of marriage.
Second and final year of marriage. I anticipated that not becoming true, but other people had different ideas.
You didn't even make it as long as I did.
No, you're right. Really?
My marriage lasted 3 years. Ish. Kind of.
She
was fucking a lot of other people during it, but... Her name was Sarah Jessup. She still has my old last name. It's Sarah Hodgkin. She lives in Ohio.
So much for defamation suits.
She drives a black, 2009
I really should... All right, okay.
That I had bought for her.
I've said this on past episodes, but Gina didn't know this until she came over to my house and I saw her. But the episode, it's like the last one in February of 2014. If you go and listen to it, I'm very chatty that night. And then I become very not chatty. And it's because Samantha walked in the middle of that podcast, and I could tell that was the end because I had forgotten to tell her that you and Gina were coming over to podcast that night, and she was very unhappy about that. And so this podcast caused my divorce. I'm blaming Greg. So
hey, I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, you weren't. It was very uncomfortable, wasn't it?
I was more so uncomfortable being asked to carry the baton of feminism with Gina. That isn't exactly my skill set. I know
not
well
because
versed in that.
You hear me, and I just go very quiet because she's packing her stuff in the middle of that podcast, and I'm like, all right, how do we end this? I'm just like, what's wrong? What's wrong?
Okay, we got to wrap it up. So go ahead and pick your favorite moment, and we got to wrap it up. Hard ending, yeah.
So my favorite moment was Spangle's re-release Into the Wild.
But seriously, there were so many times where the show would end and she'd say to you or Gina, "I'm divorcing him." So I didn't really take it all that serious.
I never actually heard that.
But you know what the good thing is that now that Chris is free, the big change is he's no longer a pussy.
I'm trying not to be.
Well, he always will be, but he's not. He's much more of a testicle wielder these days than he once was. When we can leave a lot of that
talked about balls way too much on this episode.
Shut up, Miah.
It makes people uncomfortable to think about testicles. Then I'm on here and I got mine cut off. It makes people flinch, like they hold their crotch and they feel very uncomfortable, and that's kind of my purpose here.
So that was
check your testicular privilege, Creighton.
So, Greg, let's finally get to the end here because we're falling apart.
My big thing is we're on the verge of 2015, and we just had Christmas and Thanksgiving, so we had the holidays, and this is a pretty cool group. This has been the most rewarding thing I've ever done, personally or professionally.
Oh, that's so sad.
Well, no, this has been really fun. It's really enjoyable. Met a lot of great people that have really developed a lot, really think a lot more clearly, know what I believe, and it's actually principled, not just from Karl Rove's sounding board on Fox News and Roger Ailes. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. It's been a blast, and it's great to get everybody in the room at the same time. So I'm very thankful and look forward to 2015, and hopefully we will have as productive of a year as 2014's been and keep growing.
Well, it can't get any worse.
Right. That's true. But I can honestly say that with this episode, we can actually promise to do better next time. For the first time ever.
No one is going to be this bad ever again.
This has actually been better than I thought it was going to be, that's for sure.
Me too, because this started with everybody just playing bumper cars, and then at one point, somehow, it was one person speaking at a time.
It was unbelievable.
It just happened.
There was an episode
where... It was anarchy.
There was an episode where it was Greg...
Organized chaos.
Greg, Creighton, Gina... Like, we were all in the room there was like 6 people on that episode, and it had to be the worst one ever.
That was the Sarna brothers.
Because that
was the Boston bombing.
That's what it was, yes. It was just a nightmare. Brett, you've only been on once or twice.
Twice now, yes.
But we invited you because we feel sorry for you.
That's fine.
I heard there was a fire in Atlanta.
Yes, Chris.
The night they drove old Dixie down.
What is your hope for libertarian future?
I actually just want us to, not hurt people, not kill people.
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
I wonder why.
What?
No, I'm excited about actually being geographically capable of showing up, and I still won't listen, but I'll be on as many times as you'll invite me.
You can be here in body, but
yes.
just not in mind.
Right.
Every time
or in ears.
Every time you show up to Rupert's new office now, I'm going to, when I go to install speakers in the ceiling, every time you walk through the door, We Are Libertarians will be playing for your enjoyment.
Miah is one of the smartest people I know, but one of the fucking stupidest I've ever met in my life, too. How did you not know that these two have been together for like almost a decade? You I'm
a misanthrope. I hate the human race.
You miss some of the most obvious. Anyways,
well, and she's also forgotten that we shared an office for like 3 weeks, and was the reason I ran screaming from Indiana.
Wait, what? I don't remember any of this.
I know
exactly.
I'm the reason you left. Score!
I gotta turn Miah down. My ears. I'm sorry, listeners. Any final thoughts before we hand it to Crystal?
No. Invite me on more.
All right. Crystal?
Yes.
Thoughts for libertarian future?
Thoughts for libertarian future.
Or libertarian past?
Libertarian. Well, okay. Calm down.
Me?
No. Everybody.
Oh, okay.
Just relax.
Be more like the Peffers.
Have a conversation. Be like the Peffers.
Yeah, Chris, like his chill was like making me chill.
Right.
It's going
he was just like quit killing people.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that's pants down. Just quit killing people. It's really bumming me
You know
out.
what? No, seriously though, I've enjoyed this experience because I've listened to We Are Libertarians a few times, and I found that.
We're just excited we got a few times out of you.
Generally speaking,
and she's a woman.
Well, you should be. Generally speaking, I find libertarians very annoying, but I spend most of my time with them.
Right.
So I'm an unhappy person.
She's a fair tax supporter, if that explains anything.
But an experience like this, where we all get to be in a room together and listen to each other and talk, and as you said earlier, bounce ideas off and actually communicate, is really very nice. This wasn't an echo chamber today, and that was cool.
Miah, you're an asshole.
Miah can blow all the vaping in my face that she wants because it smells amazing. It's incredible.
I know. It looks like I have a fog machine in here because Maya's just been vaping.
The Peffers leave, and all of a sudden it turns into up and smoke tour in here.
The only problem with having Miah around smoking is that she's not getting high.
Yeah.
If only.
Miah, your final thoughts, although I'm sure through the other 5 people we'll hear from you again.
Well, considering that, the piece I started off with when you came to me finally, after so long of waiting to other people's crap, and I think I summed up, what I wanted to say about this show, and I think what I got out of it. And I mean, we sit here and pick on each other and everything else, and it's crazy to watch the rest of the world tear themselves apart for small differences, and to constantly be fighting and to constantly hate on her. I know I've been mean. We've all been a little mean to each other. I've been the biggest asshole on the face of the planet. But we all know where we stand. We all know who we are. And we can all come together and sit here and laugh and have a good time and record this podcast. And that's what was most enjoyable about this show, is that me and Greg can get into horrible fights. Me and you have been in some scuffs too, and
mostly because you and Greg have fought, and then you've punched me and left.
Yeah.
Which I've always appreciated and felt like if there's any way I can facilitate that again, I'm more than happy.
I mean, if you want, I can punch everyone here before I leave.
There is nothing funnier than a limping Spangle.
Without testosterone, I'm a lot weaker than I used to be.
I was going to end with thanks for all the true friendship, but go fuck yourself, Greg.
I didn't hit you.
No, I mean, and what I've done because of when I was on this podcast when we were student Rupert's headquarters, I came on here a little bit, and you helped me get my podcast started, Creating My Podcast, which has reached more people than I ever thought would actually ever listen to it, and it's helped people Harry's listened to it, and that helped, change his mind and teach him a lot. I have other friends that have listened to that and came and found me afterwards that don't know anybody that's trans, aren't trans themselves, but just were like, holy shit, really? And because of this group, because of the podcast, because of you, that happened. Then I had my own podcast, and that was a load of fun. And speaking of other podcasts, Harry and I are actually going to be starting our own podcast. Not political in nature.
I can't wait to not listen to that piece of shit.
You won't.
How does that feel? After 2.5 years of that shit from you?
I cannot wait till that Facebook page opens up.
Oh, God.
Trollo!
It's already up.
Greg, Joe, and I are going to do nothing but troll the shit out of you two.
It's already up. Cyber loafing.
Harry, it's nothing personal. It's all about her being an
Please
asshole.
disregard all black jokes.
But it's
nobody should make fun of Harry
because of this group of people, because of this podcast. Me and Harry have become quite good friends. I would say it's because of this group, because of Chris mainly. Chris is quite possibly one of the best, nicest, good people I've ever met. But pales in comparison compared to Rupert, because Rupert's Rupert. But with what Chris has done and some of the heartfelt moments we have shared and gone through together and the similarities in some of our troubles, made some good friendships now with me and Harry becoming friends. And now we live close together, and that's been amazing because I was having another rough spot in life, and now I got Harry, and so it's been really nice. Harry's denying all of this, but
was that subsidy you just mouthed?
No, it's this podcast. I think
Who
I
knew
hope
that Harry's reparations would be Miah.
Yeah, I mean, imagine that, But
this show is going so downhill.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. Let's get back to joking around. So me and Harry are going to start our own podcast and basically rip the entire world to little shreds in the most inhumane way possible. And we've got a lot of projects that we're going to be working on here soon. And I will be going with Harry to Pork Fest again this. Well, he'll be going for a second time. I will be going for my first time.
Oh,
I might not make it back. So if this is the last time any of you ever hear from me, half of the liberty movement and that side hates me and would really like to see me perish from the face of the planet. And those people have gone.
Same with half of
Yeah, but Cantwell and me are going to fight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Half this room I'd like to see you perish as well.
Well, right. That would be okay, but then, Rupert would be sad, and we don't want Rupert sad.
Why do you have to use him as an emotional bargaining chip? That's not nice.
If you're going to keep bringing him up, I think we should mention rupertskids.org.
Rupert's
It's a great place to go and donate to a libertarian charity.
I agree.
rupertskids.org.
That's like the eBay for child slavery.
Um,
I'm totally kidding. It's a great institution.
Miah, final thoughts?
For anybody that's still listening this far into this fucking train wreck,
should be a two-parter.
Keep listening. Keep post on the page and everything else. Follow the people of this podcast, because the people that are best to listen to are people that have grown, that people have changed. You look at Fox News, you look at other podcasts and other groups. It's these people have always been the one way, and they stick to their shit so hard. They never change. Everyone here has grown and changed over the years, and it's taken all kinds and all things to do it. And I think this was a great podcast to share and use as a shining example of personal and political growth.
You know what's great? Miah has been the most complimentary towards not just all of us, but myself.
I thought that was the fucking point of this podcast.
So I really like you today.
She's been the most complimentary and the most anti-complimentary.
I'm happy you haven't stormed out yet. All right, somebody hand Harry a mic.
Tell me that public schools are good. I dare you.
Public schools are terrible. I spent way too long there.
I swear to God, you open your mouth right now, I'm punching you right in the face. Harry, your final thoughts?
A couple of things I've learned, because since I am going to do the podcast with Miah, from recording the last one and watching Chris on this one, you have to constantly keep adjusting Miah's level, because even when she comes at a tone, she'll notice you adjust her that and then starts yelling above that to make sure her voice is heard over all others.
And then I have to use compression, too, to smooth it all out on the back end. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But and also also reaffirm the fact that I used to think you needed a huge ego to do a podcast. Coming to this one, notice that it's completely true. One thing I am The other thing I'm sad about, because I got the experience of both Peffers being on a podcast, actually in the room, so just listening to it. That was awesome. One thing I wish I got to experience was like Miah storming out and quitting the podcast. That'd have been awesome to see.
There's still time. It's much less fun than it sounds. Trust me.
Sounds great though.
Hey, you know what's even more traumatic? You know what's even more traumatic is having to go to her apartment the next day to apologize to her for her acting crazy.
I am the one who knocked.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so we are going to start the podcast because I have a lot of tech leanings. I like to use different piece of technologies to basically. I'm going to borrow someone else's phrase. It's basically using ones and zeros to bypass the state, or just do what bypass.
If you want to know
as
Harry,
catchy as Reddit for your ears.
If you want to know Harry in 2 words, in a couple words, in 2 items: Rotary, Raspberry Pi. That's if you know what either one of those mean in context. That's Harry.
I really do like the rotary motor. It's very efficient, the most efficient motor out there.
Your thoughts about the libertarian future?
I could possibly make it. You can take a 1.3 liter rotary motor, produce over 300 horsepower out of it.
Remember that video? You know what I find refreshing?
Yeah. Harry.
And if you put a Raspberry Pi on a rotary motor, oh my God!
It'd be like a 3D printer.
Yeah. I can't wait till you can 3D print the 3D printer. It's going to be great.
Harry.
What's up?
Final thoughts, please.
Yeah, it's from.
And you have a girlfriend?
Yes, we've been together for 12 years this June. Yeah, we've been living together for 12 years that July.
Why did you get him off topic? I finally got him back on track.
Yeah, I was on rotary topic. Motor and Raspberry Pi, and I thought that was a joke. Like he has a girlfriend and he can talk about those 2 things, but apparently. That was not the intent.
No, the Raspberry Pi is a credit card size computer.
Yeah.
Greg has.
Yeah.
Greg, you have.
You like Raspberry Pi?
I mean, I've never used one.
Racist.
Oh, sweet. I got some extra ones. I'll let you borrow it.
Harry.
Libertarian future. That's right. What Miah said about this podcast, it let me I actually felt there was more libertarians here in Indianapolis that I previously thought. Honestly, for the longest time, I thought it was just myself and Joel and Frank Rosa. Just kind of
big ups.
That's all I kind of felt like there was in this town. That's why I really did enjoy going to Free State Project events because look at all these people. I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. Then I get on this podcast and I find all you 11 crazy people. And I'm also sad that because I actually have 5 or 6 more mics and cables at the house. I just thought I brought 2 for my. I'm sure
I had no more room anyways. This board is.
I brought my board
capacity.
too. I brought my extra board.
Ooh.
So we could have. But I just assumed.
Doc.
Sorry. But yeah, that's all I got. I'm passing the mic to Creighton.
All right. Thank you, Harry.
Creighton.
Can you say it?
Creighton. Creighton.
Creighton.
Michael Keaton.
It's Creighton.
Multiplicity.
I am the Batman.
I love that movie.
No, my final thoughts. Less than a year till Star Wars Episode 7.
Creighton with his usual
libertarian future. That's your thoughts on the libertarian.
What have you learned? How have you
everybody's future?
How have you benefited from this podcast, Creighton?
His girlfriend.
Talk about stuff a lot. I guess I don't know. I just do it because it's fun. I hang out with you guys and talk about politics.
Welcome back, buddy.
Hey, we have to make
at least my mic check was loud enough.
10 hottest libertarian girls.
I'd put her in the top 3 at least.
Well, no, she was on that list.
Oh, I know. She
Not
smoked.
Schindler's, the other one.
She smokes.
Chill out, guys.
All right, well, that's all for this episode of. Yeah, your girlfriend.
She was number 1, so whatever.
Wait, who's your girlfriend?
No, don't worry about it.
Who's your girlfriend?
Whitney Davis.
Huh?
Whitney Davis.
What the piss is that?
Yeah, Whitney Davis, nice.
Wait, you know what? We did mention the entire time we were on here, considering politics and libertarian and everything else, are the all-time smartest, best, hottest person that's ever graced any of our presences, Lauren Rumpler.
Stop it.
I saw her while I was out there.
I'm sorry.
Did you?
She does her. What does she do? Like objectivist.
Objectivist girl.
Well,
yeah.
she's now the libertarian objectivist girl anarchist thing. She's added some labels.
She's a hybrid.
She didn't remember me.
And she has her own CD out, I guess. She sings about Ayn Rand and how she used to be a stripper.
I saw that on Facebook too.
Joe? Joe, final thoughts?
Don't worry, buddy. She doesn't listen to this show.
She's going to, actually, because I told her that I was
She
finally
can't
going to be
read.
on it again. So she's like, I'll listen to it.
Hi, Whitney.
Yeah.
This ending has been as long as like the Return of the Kings.
Tits or
ending.
GTFO.
If you get tired of Creighton mistreating you, Whitney, my number is 317.
You guys are all assholes. You're all a bunch of assholes.
How'd she like the ring?
What?
Did you put it on the tree?
You guys, I shouldn't have said anything. Oh my god.
What does the baby do?
Shut up, Chris.
Joe?
Thoughts on the libertarian future? I don't know.
More Spanish.
It was great to see everybody. Yes, more Spanish.
Tamales
for
for everyone.
No, I always bring it back to 1989, man. I think that if libertarians can remember Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, people care more about what you do than what you say. Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. If we can do that, then libertarianism will work.
I liked it better when Chris Peffers
I
said
think Chris said it. Just stop killing people. It's bumming me out.
Bumming me out, man.
As to what have been your favorite moments? I mean, have there been a moment where you were
This
really
is the
proud?
first time I'm in the room with everybody. This is my favorite moment.
This is the first time I'm in the room with everybody, too.
Yeah. We've added new people since you got here.
And this is the first time I've met Brett face to face, Harry face to face, Crystal,
Mikki.
No.
Oh.
And
Thought it
both
was
of-
an arranged
both of the
marriage.
Peffers. And Hannah, actually. So, yeah, lots of firsts today. This is my favorite. And Miah brought really good food. Those were good.
Emily and my wife made it. So
Thank you, Emily.
Mikki, would you like a turn?
Not really.
All right.
Keep doing the podcast so Joe has somebody to talk to. Amen.
As the wife.
I like that.
Of the what is your opinion of his involvement in this podcast? Like, how do you view it? Like, because you have to on some level just think it's so stupid, right? Do you think it's dorky?
I don't think anything my husband does is dorky.
That was the biggest lie.
I wish we could put that face on the podcast.
Hey, would you like to run for office? Because that was the greatest lie I've ever heard in my life.
But she drove all the way down here. It was over 100 miles. She drove so I could sit here and do the podcast.
No,
so
it
there's
makes him
support.
happy. It makes,
And you saw how much she laughed.
Well, remember, Hitler
guys are
came to
funny.
power, started off in a bar, then wrote a book. If Hitler would have been alive today, he would have had a podcast. So just keep that in mind.
I just want everybody to know that we
in
just
mind.
connected that conversation with Joe and Mikki to Hitler. Like, that just happened.
Now, Mikki, as a mental health professional, what's your evaluation of everyone in this room today?
They can't see your face. You have to comment.
Sterilization.
Are you a licensed medical practitioner?
No comment.
If you say yes,
No.
I will
then
need
you
to
have
be
no comments.
Paid for any more of my thoughts.
All right, darn it. All right, well, I have greatly enjoyed the entire experience. I am still a political creature. I'm still interested, despite our lack of production, and this has been a fun outlet to kind of share thoughts and to get to know everybody and to become friends with everybody. And you guys have said it best. I mean, it's such a group of diverse people that I think that if I had thought I'm going to be really good friends with Gina, I don't know that I necessarily would have thought that.
Until you saw her in that cop outfit.
Well. Yeah. So I think...
I can't believe Sam hated it when we podcast late after that outfit.
Yeah, that didn't help. But no, but when you
still have the spatula, by the way.
When you, that's bad. Remember when that knife got stuck in the wall?
I remember because I had to patch it before I moved out of the apartment.
So there's just been a ton. I can't choose one favorite moment because there's been so many. Because anytime you have a group of friends, it very much it has been like almost an online fraternity in some ways, where we get to hang out with each other, have shared experiences. It's lasted for years, and the friendships, even if we stop doing the podcast tomorrow. All right, they still want to keep doing it. We'll keep doing the podcast on into the future. The memories will last a long time, and all of us have changed personally. All of us have grown. All of us have had a lot of shared and different experiences. And I can tell you, I have grown probably the most out of everybody because I'm, the organizer. So I keep in contact with everybody and keep things moving or not moving, as some of you like to point out often. But, it has been incredibly rewarding to hear how many people actually enjoy the show. I don't think we've talked about the listeners. We've talked about what we've done for each other. But I will say it is incredible to hear stories of someone like Mikki saying, yeah, I'm forced to listen, but it has made me think, or random y'all students recognizing Creighton's name, or just people writing us and saying, wow, I believed in libertarianism, I understood it, and then when I heard this podcast, when my wife heard this podcast, my friends, my coworkers heard this podcast, they really started to understand it a little bit better. And that really makes it worth it and helps us know that we're doing something worthwhile, because that's the kind of stuff that keeps you going. It certainly isn't a money thing. We don't do it for money. We don't do it for glory. Yet. But, we do it because we enjoy each other's company. We enjoy spending some time with you as well. So, above all, we'd like to thank you for all of your continued support and sharing of We Are Libertarians. And thank you very much for listening to 100 episodes. We don't know why. We don't know why you've done it. But
self-flagellation.
Get a hobby.
Yeah. What the hell's wrong with you, nerds?
Get out of your mom's basement.
Yeah.
Your neck beards.
Why don't you go get online and talk about...
Take off your fedora and your Beats for Dre and start your own podcast.
Some of us here can't grow neck beards. Neck beard privilege.
So thank you all for listening.
That is probably the most libertarian thing that can ever happen.
What?
Just like a conversation about neck beards in Mama's basement.
Have I told you about my podcast?
Check your neck beard privilege. That is.
I can tell you, as I've been out on the dating scene, and you ladies listening, I'm on the dating scene.
So am I. I am in a poly relationship, so any ladies or dudes or...
But I will tell you that when you bring up that you have a highly successful libertarian podcast...
In fact, award-winning.
None of them give a shit. But thank you all for your continued support, and in the next 100 episodes, we promise
to do better next time.
Music for We Are Libertarians is provided by Hoosier musician Brian Keith Wallen. Please check out his website, briankeithwallen.com. The song is Bad Spells.